Hello, chat. Welcome back. We just got back from our break. We thank you for staying with us, and we will be jumping right into it with our next category Best Antagonist. And for Best Antagonist, we have nominated Sherlock from Yukoku no Moriarty, Mahito from Jujutsu Kaisen, Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen, Lieutenant Hellman from Magatsu Wahrheit Zerst, Boss Executioner from Akudama Drive, and Anxiety from Adachi To Shimamura.
Listen,
And as well, our joke nomination, the director of Ochikabore Fruit Tart. I could not find their name.
yeah, just all of Fruit Tart. I say we just vote. The entirety of Fruit Tart is best antagonist to us for the fall 2020 season.
No, because if I did that, I'd have to put you two on Best Antagonist as well.
Fuck you.
You made me sit through all of Kuma Bear!
Kuma Bear is
Did
good.
this.
Kuma Bear is good, and you're wrong. Also, post the thing into chat, please.
Yeah, it takes me a second. It slows me down to do this because I have to do this from mobile.
Oh no.
So
Like,
I was
I
about to
feel
be a
I,
petty ass bitch, but I chose not to.
I feel it goes without saying. While I feel it goes without saying, Lieutenant Hellman is more of an honorable mention here.
Is he? I
yeah,
thought we all like hate the dude.
I
yeah,
did,
but
but I
it
didn't.
doesn't
I
for
did.
long.
I don't think because we only saw like a couple episodes. I can't really sit here and say he's cemented as like a real antagonist for me. He's just a dick.
Yeah,
He's just a dick.
There's a difference. An antagonist isn't just a dick. An antagonist could be a great person.
You know what? That actually reminds me. You guys didn't watch the show up to the point where you saw his backstory, right?
No,
nope.
I didn't watch any more
Ah,
after where we cut it.
yeah. Damn. Fuck. Well, okay. Understandable. Not happy about it, but I do understand why this decision is being made. Uh, yeah. I'll speak on fucking Lieutenant Dickhead. His whole shtick of just being the absolute worst, but like they're making the government out to be just like nothing but terrible people, and I actually think that's a bit of a weakness of the show because even if you have bad characters and bad people in your government, you also would normally have good people as well. And there's like a scene where Hellman returns and his like he's a lieutenant in like on paper, but he actually has like the captain's role. And he comes back, and his other fellow captains are all like trying to give him shit. Where it's just like, oh, hold on, let me just put the screen cap on. Yeah, his other captains are like, oh, you're like I forgot what it said, but like, oh, you have you I hear you're getting an honor for like all the service and duties. You're oh, did I robot?
Not for me.
Oh, I just asked Chad if I roboted, and if so, I'll fix myself up a bit. But yeah, he's like, oh, I heard you're getting an honor for like having the most like arrests and peaceful regions like within your territory, within your jurisdiction. And then like, is it true that you like don't report many of your smaller crimes? And he's just like, I don't see, and he's just like, I don't see a reason to like prosecute people for doing some petty thefts just so I can have more like notches on my account. And then he turns around and goes like, "Oh, and I heard all of you have had wonderful abilities like getting the most weapon smugglers. But also, is it true that many weapons have been unaccounted for within your ledgers?" And he like sticks it to these other shitty scumbaggy like military captains, and he's almost likable until you remember that he's a fucking sadist that enjoys killing people and torturing them and seeing people suffer, because that's what he does with Emmanuel's sister. He like takes her hostage and interrogates her and like holds her at like a wand point, magic staff point, so that Emmanuel will surrender. He's a real piece of shit. Like you are rooting for his defeat, but they do a decent job at giving him redeeming qualities too. It's just a shame that he decided that his best way of living life is to kill anyone he doesn't like and to seek out justice by own amount after seeing his mother raped by her boss. And then yeah, it goes places. And saying it out loud, I realize why you guys aren't. I see what you guys are. Okay, gotcha. Now I understand, chat. Yeah, I see why he's not gonna make the list, because I guess it's not enough to go on.
Yeah. Next, if you're done talking about Hellman, I think the next course that we should probably do is, I don't think both of them are going to go on the list, so I think we should decide who we would cut over Mahito or Sukuna.
I'm just gonna
So,
I'm just gonna say it. Sukuna, we haven't seen enough of Sukuna. We're starting to see inklings of him, and while he is intimidating, we've got a lot of Mahito and things that Mahito has done to really drive himself
yeah.
forward.
Don't get me wrong, I love Sukuna as a villain. He's not someone I see getting befriended. He's not. The show does a remarkable job proving him to be still a villain. He's not a curse that makes idle threats, and he's not Itadori's friend. He's in it purely for himself. The show does a remarkable job to show that, between him and Mahito laughing at Itadori, him just with the wave of a finger and wave of a whim gutting Mahito, not caring if he lives or dies, just offended that Mahito could even think he could touch Sukuna's soul. He's a wonderful presence in the show, and I think he's used just enough. But at the same time, Mahito cements himself so well as a villain in the show, the death of Junpei. This is the first time I started to fear Mahito, because before it was going the route like, oh, okay, he's able to turn humans into curses. Okay, that's interesting. This is one of the first times they've seen this. And then he kills who at the time we thought was going to be a major character. And then you start to get worried, because that's when the show, like, at least to me, cemented itself that we're not afraid to kill characters. There will be consequence in this show, and Mahito is meant to be intimidating, especially his smile, the way he looks, his domain expansion when he has Nanami in there, just his nonchalant smile, like, I'm truly grateful to you. That it was chilling.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, you said it very well, Meep. There really isn't much more for me to elaborate on. I mean, there's more to elaborate when it comes to Mahito because of just how much we've gotten of him. But in terms of Sukuna, I couldn't have said it better myself. He is an obvious threat, but one that we are still only being shown pieces and little snippets of. And Mahito has basically made himself, big villain of the week or big villain of the season, with his sadism and like he also thinks of humans as lesser than him, but unlike Jogo, who's very vile and like angry and malicious with it, Mahito almost has this childlike innocence and is just so arrogantly dismissive of them with like a very simple matter of factness that makes him all the more actually scarier and detestable when
And
like he's not as outright hateful and resenting and just like I don't know, speciesist toward humans, but he sees them as nothing but playthings and matter, as like little. He's the ants. Like Jogo gets upset when he's at a picnic and starts stomping around and making a scene where there are ants on the blanket or in his food. Uh, Mahito is not bothered by them because he doesn't even see them as anything worth his concern, and he plays with them as he would any toy. And I think that makes him a much more terrifying force of evil.
Yeah, and if they showed it to us in a different light, I may have believed that he actually cared for Junpei. Like if they presented it in a different light, like they could, because it was obvious that it was trying to obviously show us, hey, he has an alternate agenda here. But if it wanted to keep it ambiguous, it could have. Because there were some moments where it was like, oh, you genuinely want to foster a kinship with Junpei. But at the same time, you're like, no, there has to be a deeper motive here. And it's just fascinating his entire relationship with Junpei, just using him as a pawn, his egging on of Itadori, his his childlike wonder, or his childlike actions, and his growth. Like you don't see villains grow much. Like the only other anime I can think of that has done that is Full Metal Alchemist and My Hero with Shigaraki. Like, and I love their villains, and not the development of their
I think
abilities. Because
I think you're cutting in and out
oh, how am I now?
again.
How am I now?
Cool. Yeah, just whatchamacallit, Shigaraki.
Yeah, okay. Like Shigaraki, like not many shows show development of their villains, both growth wise and ability wise. I love shows that do that because they're setting him up as a clear like rival antagonist with Itadori. And as Gilly said during our last episode, they set that up extremely well.
He is. I I get the feel that it's exactly what I. It's gonna be what I think it is. He is Itadori's opposite. He is the antagonist to that protagonist. He is the goal. I have to always be better, stronger, beat them. That's a solid build for an antagonist to be the ultimate goal of our main character.
Yeah, and where Gojo pointed at Jogo and say, "Hey, that should be your goal." Itadori's taken Mahito to be his goal, which is fascinating. I know we joked around saying that Gojo will probably or Jogo will probably be taken down by Gojo. I think Jogo is going to be one of the fights for the second years personally.
We'll see.
I mean, he
Yeah.
did specifically say it to Itadori, but he was saying that uh, Jogo should be the goal of all of them, like the
Yeah.
group, Fushiguro, Nobara, Itadori. That should be all of their goals.
Okay. That might
Be
be a
able to
group
beat
fight
him.
then. Maybe
Like
that'll be a
he
group fight.
because only it was addressed to Itadori because he was the only one there, but he did mention like it should be all of their goal to be able to beat him.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So we have Sakuna and Lieutenant Hellman crossed off. Uh
Anxiety.
yeah, let's tackle anxiety. Well, anxiety is a fun idea to have nominated, and it's definitely the antagonist of Adachi and Shimomura. At the same time, it's a bit unfair because anxiety is something everyone struggles with and everyone can relate to. So,
But that's what makes it a good antagonist, because it's a drive force of relatability.
It is, but at the same time, it's a lot less understated and more found through metaphor and their inner workings and inner monologues. And the
Yeah,
show
but
is
that's what
definitely
the show
focused
is
on the
really good at
character.
doing. Like, the inner
Yeah.
monologues and everything is something that the show excels at expressing through metaphor, through visual, like, representation.
Mm, fair. It's just I wouldn't put it as runner up or winner personally.
I'm only half kidding because for me, like, anxiety is an actual problem. Like, when I uploaded
Yeah.
my voice reel, it took me like two, if not three. Yeah, it took me like 3 weeks to like add a bio to my page because it's just like it grips your mind and makes you feel like everything you're doing is kind of pointless. So like I really understand and relate to how powerful of a force it is, and seeing it expressed in a very genuine way in Adachi to Shimomura was one of the reasons why I actually really like the show.
Mm, that's fair. Just personally for me, because of the nature of it and everything, I don't think I'd put it as runner up or winner. That's just me. I don't know. Any thoughts, Gilly?
Hmm.
Well, uh, we can come back to that. Let's talk about Boss Executioner then.
Bossa.
Ah,
She is interesting,
Well, actually, hold on, really
but
quick. Before we talk about the boss executioner, I think it's just it's worth giving an honorable mention to Master Executioner, who did not make the list when we've considered his overall role and place in the story, but is still a fucking badass worth mentioning.
mhm, yeah, yeah, him and Pupil are really good. Like, it's just I think the reason we didn't include Pupil is because in the later part he doesn't really play much antagonist role.
I mean, she's antagonistic, but she doesn't really amount to much.
Yeah,
Like that's one
yeah,
thing
I
the
don't
show
really do
didn't really
anything.
capitalize on at the end. Like Pupil was kind of meh.
Who's a dud? Do you think she died in that riot, or do you think she escaped?
I don't know, but I didn't really ever really care for her because I saw her as naive, but on and also on the wrong side, and I had really hoped that Pupil would have like backed the Akudama once she realized what was happening, but she didn't do it. So to hell with her, whether she's alive or not.
Hmm, well,
But yeah, Master's a
the
great character. He is utterly antagonistic, but also like empathetic. Like you can empathize with him a lot, and his
mhm,
fights drives the team together and also brings the best out of Brawler.
yeah. With Boss Executioner, she's interesting, but ultimately, it's the other executioners that end up doing things. She just calls the orders and manipulates the police chief. I don't. I don't feel that passionately about her when I think about her as a villain.
Oh,
If
I cannot agree with you there because her whole actions in the later half of the season of just the way I don't have a still for her. Fuck. Okay, well, shit. Yeah,
In her
the
first
way.
appearance,
Yeah, go
she
ahead.
she is the puppet master.
But
That
what's
she
worse is
she
that
plays
she's
the
the she's a
she plays the
puppet
puppet
master to
master role,
puppet
and she
masters.
plays, yes, she's a puppet master, and she plays the role phenomenally. She is
Yeah,
always she is the underlying controlling of just about everything, whether you realize it or not. She's there.
And she also, like, she is the actual reason why Kanto has this power over Kansai. Like, her puppet masters are directly the Kanto and like super intelligence, while she just goes off and execute things. And the oppressive regime metaphor that she had at the very end was, personally, I don't know how you can possibly not feel strongly about it. She pressured and manipulated the police chief, the chief of like the military force of the land, of like enforcement, to register citizens who are rioting and, as an American, like expressing their free speech and the right to assembly and the right to like protest, and to quell them, she makes all of them akudama so that all of her super soldiers can just cut them down and kill them to deal with the issue. And like, I understand her motivations for it, but it's so fucking cold-hearted. And on top of that, she was willing to throw everyone's lives away just to preserve her standing with Kanto. It was disgusting. And there was a whole moment where I talked about on that episode where like she started believing that she is in control of all the citizens' lives, when it was really them who really decided what stays and what goes. Like, she abandoned the people. She doesn't have humanity for all her philosophies and with all of her waxing philosophical and pseudo wisdoms about how people need to rely on each other to bring the best out of each other. All of that went out the window the moment she started losing control.
I just wish it would have showed more of. I've just never been a fan of the puppet master who's also in puppet string. It's
Why?
just never been compelling to me, cause it's just. I'm trying to find words for this. Because she's the puppet master in puppet strings, and it's just not very interesting to me. Like, while I agree with everything you said, it's just ultimately I it fell flat for me. Like, I thought she was more effective earlier on than she was later on. Like, I would, if anything, I would have put the I feel like if we put the executioners as a whole on here, this would be a different conversation, but it's difficult because it's just one person of a massive group.
The problem is that it's really hard to put the executioners as a whole on here,
Yeah, like
because the thing is, there's you can really tell from the reactions that some of them are just doing what they think is right. They don't realize what they're actually doing. They're just, this is what they've been told is the correct thing to do.
yeah, and
Whereas the boss of the executioners knows full well what she's doing, and whether it's right or wrong is not as important to her as it is the way that it needs to be done, that she thinks it needs to be done.
yeah, it's
Also, she's a great example of how the ends justify the means as a philosophy, as a political philosophy, is a massive slippery slope.
it might it could also just be me being burnt out by the politics of 2020. Just
I
this
mean,
was
if
a
anything, that's
very
all the reason why she's even worse. No?
yeah, but I just don't feel as strongly about her as you two do. It honestly, the more I think about it, the more I would put a master executioner on here. Now that we actually think about it,
I think
or
Master's
now that I
final moment made him less of a compelling antagonist, and more of just like a compelling anti-villain.
Mm, I still think, because he's still an antagonist to our heroes. Like, he's still going against our heroes, just as Cutthroat is an antagonist in the end.
I mean, fuck Cutthroat. Cutthroat can go fuck himself and die.
See, I actually thought of, uh, I actually for a little bit thought about arguing for Doctor for antagonist, but I just didn't feel it was right.
I mean, she
Yeah,
is shitty.
I I don't know. It just I kind of felt disconnected from the boss executioner for. I just I can't. I'm having a hard time explaining why I don't feel. I just now I'm the one that can't explain my feelings on this show.
Ha! Best show.
It's gone full.
It's complicated.
I will be completely flat out because I thought about this while I was driving, and I'm pretty solid behind how I feel. As much as it might seem like it, I personally put the boss executioner as my number one pick,
Oh,
and I follow that with Mahito
really?
for my runner up.
Since we're playing the who's top of the top, we haven't talked about him yet, and we will in a moment. But to me, my number one antagonist is Sherlock because his
Ooh.
character is very, very interesting. And while I feel like in any other season, I would argue for anxiety more because it is a very, very real sensation we have in our lives, in our way of life today. Um, with so many strong antagonists, I just don't think it can hold a candle. So I think I don't know. My number one spot would be Sherlock, and runner up is a tie between Mahito and Boss Executioner. Because while I disagree with Meep, I do get where he's coming from because we didn't get enough of her. We got enough. I think we got enough, but we also could have had a little bit more.
Just a little bit more to make me feel connected to her. Because after Master died, I didn't really feel much threat from the executioners. Especially after episode 7, where you just saw Cutthroat and Courier mowing them down.
Yeah, that was weird. But again, we're not talking about all the executioners. We're talking about this bitch.
Yeah. It's just, I guess I just didn't feel threatened when she was on screen. Like, I didn't feel there was any. It didn't
It's
feel
not
like there was
her
any.
as it's not her as an individual that is the threat. It is her influence and what she can do with it that is the threat.
There's a reason why this old woman stayed in control of the executioners, and once you think about that and what it would take her to do, well, there you go.
Yeah, but even then, as I just said with episode 7, I felt no threat from the actual executioners themselves, so even though she
Yeah,
has all this influential power over them, and it makes sense now that Cutthroat, he was killing office workers was he when he was in there. Okay, fine, but there was still episode 7 when they were mowing down. What if those were office workers? Why did they bring them to capture all of the Akudama together?
because office walkers ain't shit.
But if we're going with who's, my top are Mahito and then Sherlock because Sherlock for a lot of this didn't really feel like an antagonist, but because of what Sherlock versus Moriarty is, he kind of de facto is one. And peek behind the curtain, chat. We actually had a discussion whether Sherlock was a supporting character or an antagonist, and it came down to the wire actually.
Yeah,
I
and
have my opinions on Sherlock.
well, tell us them.
Well, if we're gonna get over to that, I is I love his character. I love the dynamic between him and Moriarty. the way they bounce off each other, the way they react to each other. And this is one of those antagonistic relationships. This is one of those relationships between a protagonist and an antagonist, where it is a bittersweet friendship that just can't really happen. One that both characters would revel in being able to have, but they can't. And whether both of them realize it at the time or just one of them, it's just a major issue that they cannot be what they could be due to their differences. And while I always enjoy that, it's hard to really feel those relationships are even it's hard to really label the character as an antagonist. While he is the antagonist, he doesn't give the sensation of one. I
Yeah.
can't put him up there on the top when I can't feel like it.
I don't
I can't
know if
get
I
the
can.
right feel to him.
I don't know if I can
That's why
agree with that.
I ultimately have him as runner up, is for the exact same feeling.
Like, I get what you're saying again. Like, I get what you're saying, but like, and that might make me put him on runner up instead of main antagonist. But the overall character is remarkable, and while they walk a similar path, there is a clear distinction between William and Sherlock. I but there is room to be made within this discussion and argument that we rely too much on our familiarity of Sherlock versus Moriarty, Sherlock Holmes versus William Moriarty, um, and that might be clouding our judgment of the situation because, as it stands, there hasn't. I mean, he is an antagonistic force, right? He does antagonize William and the rest of his crew, and he stands as a potential threat, but he also stands as like an asset to them. And as of the moment of the season, as of what we have seen in the moment, except for that scene when they first introduce Sherlock as he analyzes William Moriarty as like a mathematician and professor. Um, we don't really see him at ends, though we know, and the show leaves the tension there, and we know the tension is there, but it doesn't really do anything with it. That being said, I do feel he's there to create tension and pressure for William and his plans, and I think the show does succeed in doing that.
Yeah, it's the more I think about it, though, the more realizing the story is incomplete, and ultimately we haven't seen them work against each other yet. Because even the one time where Sherlock was technically trying to, get Moriarty, he was still working with Moriarty because Moriarty was testing him. So
Well, no, the moment. Well, I guess he was still testing him. Yeah.
I, the more I think about it, I now it's more split between Sherlock and Boss for runner up, because other than Boss, I don't know who else I'd put for runner up.
Hmm.
I me myself, I personally put Mahito at the top just because of the villains on this list. He showed his villainy, his role against the heroes. He showed it phenomenally and perfectly. And he's not an overpowered villain. It a lot of shonen with fights, and again, this is going off of shonen norms, but I have not seen an equal fight in shonen in a while. A lot of the times they end up being curb stomps on one side or the other. And the Mahito versus Itadori, that was still pretty even because Itadori has the trump card against Mahito. The trump card known as Sukuna. And and then when Nanami comes in, it becomes an all-out drag-out brawl, and you see Itadori and Nanami, taking the lead. But that gives Mahito room for domain expansion. and I loved the way that fight ended because it served to give us, you know, what something to look forward to with their next meeting. It also served for Sukuna's growth as not Sukuna's growth. He didn't grow. It cemented Sukuna once again as being, and he is a curse. He does things on a whim. And I think Mahito has done amazing things for the show. Ever since Mahito was introduced, the show got like 2 or 3 times better for me.
Hmm.
Because
I
his
feel your passion. I feel the emotion and passion with which you speak on this. I recognize it. I shall think on this. Gilly, what say you?
the more I think about it, the more I'd say Mahito number 1, boss runner up for me.
Hmm.
And I get you with wanting bosses number 1, Gilly. I get you. It's just I'm not as passionate for bosses number 1 as you two are personally.
No, no, I get it. Mahito got a lot more time to really play the role and have the stage as an antagonist than boss, so I understand why he would be above him. But Sherlock, man, Yukoku no
He doesn't really
Moriarty's
play.
Sherlock Holmes, like the
He
charisma, the
doesn't really,
force, the entity that he is.
and all that's there. But the most antagonistic thing he does to Moriarty is call him on his not call him on his bullshit, but challenge him to a game of wits on the Nothic. It honestly, the more I think
Their
about it, the more I don't think I could put Sherlock before
their
either.
their relationship is phenomenal. Their characters are phenomenal. Their dynamic is phenomenal. Everything about them is great, but I I can't really sit here and just think of think of it as this antagonist protagonist clash as much as I would like to. It's very it's it's this wanton friendship that can't happen,
Yeah,
and
I think
for the most part it seems like and for the most part they agree on a majority of things that just not methodology.
But
yeah, and
like
when,
you know when the coin will drop, when the bullet shell hits the ground, that they will stand on opposite ends of that.
but judging just from this one season, though,
Honestly, I want to
I,
pretend to argue about that, but what you just said is exactly what I've been thinking of for the last like 2 3 minutes. It's just like I'm judging it looking into the future, not judging it, but what we have been given so far. So,
And on top of everything, they could just completely turn the tables on us.
have Mycroft be the villain.
Well, with like the foreboding note they left us off on, they might have completely pulled the wool over our eyes, and our actual antagonist is just going to be the crown.
Maybe. I guess
yes,
I guess
Your
Sherlock might end up being more of an
Majesty.
anti-hero, or I guess in this case technically anti-villain because Moriarty is technically a
What I
villain.
could
It's
what I
weird.
could see this show doing very heavily is that by the end of the second part, Sherlock knows what Moriarty's done. They will work together very just out of necessity, and the show will end with him saying that he's going to catch him. Because I think that feels very much like something they might do.
That is true.
Leaving their relationship on a lingering back and forth rather than actually giving it a complete conclusion by the end.
That is true. Because where I'm standing right now is Mahito boss for runner-up.
It's just, I'm also just a little shooketh, as I can't believe that both Brawler and it seems like Sherlock are not going to win their categories.
We do have best couple still, and we can, though they might make those. How are you feeling on, like, where are you standing right now, Gilly, for your nominations? Or not nominations, but for what you'd put.
It just feels so, as much as I love him, it almost feels wrong for me to want to have Mahito as number 1.
I think we can agree on Mahito number 1.
Like the reason I have the two, at least I have those two characters just in general rather than thinking about their placements, is because they are like the true cemented antagonists for the most part. Like with Mahito, it's a little bit different because he is our cemented like true antagonist to Itadori, but for the series at large, not technically.
That
I'm
is true, but antagonist, it does have to be like main antagonist of all series. It's just like some series. What's a good example? Let's use. I'm trying to think of a good example here. I guess I could use Naruto here. Pain in Naruto is the best antagonist for me, even though he's not the overarching antagonist, if that makes sense. And
I
sort
get
of
what you
in the
mean. It doesn't
same
have to be
vein.
like the key the big bad evil guy to be like a really powerful antagonist.
Yeah.
I don't
Like
know.
in of
This
the
is rough.
antagonists we've seen, I
Like,
think Mahito has gotten a lot better than Geto or Jogo have gotten.
yeah, but who gives a fuck about Choco?
I actually wanted to nominate him because just because he's a bad person doesn't mean he's a bad character. Fight you
He's
on
just a
that.
fucking shitlord. You know, if Jogo was a person, he'd just be a fucking internet troll, right?
Yes, and it's my favorite quote unquote villains of Inuyashiki were the internet trolls.
Ugh. You have terrible taste.
Watch Inuyashiki and you'll know what I mean, Dalaran.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Look at this fucking stupid face with his stupid volcano head. Wait, better still. This one.
what about you, Dalaran? Between Boss and Mahito, who do you put for number one, and who do you put for runner-up?
I'll definitely put Mahito for number one. My thing with Boss though is while she is a great example of how absolute power corrupts absolutely, and just how like the slippery slope of she's a fantastic example of how the ends justify the means is an incredibly slippery slope. It's a very steep slippery slope that you will go down very easily and quickly. We just, the thing about Akudama Drive is that the lines of morality and ethics are very blurred. Like Akudama Drive works in a field of gray with like swindler and I would argue hoodlum and cutthroat. Definitely not cutthroat. Courier kind of being on the lighter side, maybe even Brawler kind of being like on the lighter side of gray and like the whiter side, and the darker side, having people like Boss, Doctor, Cutthroat, many of the Executioners, many of the Kanto super intelligence. But no one there is really like a good guy or a bad guy, and it's just antagonistic forces against our crew. Yeah, and I guess if you just count as an antagonistic force of the crew, Boss does kind of work.
Yeah, antagonist doesn't have to be morality too. Like, a good person can be an antagonist to our main character.
Yeah, like Sherlock.
Yeah, but they don't show him being antagonistic. So,
I don't know. Every scene he's had with William is full of tension. The scene where they meet, the scene after the boat where he starts asking him questions, the scene in the train where he like tests the water by accusing William, like those are all fantastically tense and subtly antagonistic moments.
but is it is it full of tension because that's how, because of purely the show, or is a lot of that tension being cemented by us knowing the trope of Moriarty versus Sherlock?
Yeah, yeah, that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
I honestly, I think it's safe to say we could cut Sherlock off.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but because of that, it just comes down to it, innit? Alright, well, in that case, I vote Mahito with the runner up of Boss.
I can concede to that. Mahito being runner up and Boss being number one.
Gilly?
Yeah.
No one's happy with this. Everyone is upset.
Listen, I'm not going to kick my feet and drag and demand Mahito.
What?
Wait, we're putting Boss as number one and Mahito as runner up, right?
No, I put Mahito as number one and Boss as runner up.
Oh, you said Mahito for runner up.
No, I said Mahito and then as runner up, Boss.
Oh, okay. Okay, then I misheard. But yeah, okay.
Gilly?
Like I know what was meant. That's why I wasn't. That's why I don't sound happy about it.
It's okay, Gilly. I was willing to reconcile. Or not reconcile. That's the wrong word.
Picking out antagonists for this season was not an easy venture.
Yeah. Let it be known, chat. We struggled for some shows.
I mean, we've pretty much struggled with every single category.
There's a lot of the problem is with this season is there's a lot of moments in terms of antagonists where you're not looking at a physical being, you're looking at a situation, a different literary writing device. It is not man versus man. You're looking at man versus society or man versus self.
We live in a society, Swindle.
And things get really messy when you start having to think about it in that way, because it's just like, does that even, do I really even want to count that?
Imagine, imagine if you were watching a show like Berserk or fucking whatever the one show that's on Netflix is, where it's like main antagonist Satan. This is, I mean, can you get any more evil than the literal devil?
Yeah, Mr. Yeah, fucking Count and like bit like what was it, Baron Enders, Lord Enders.
Yeah. Luckily, best antagonist isn't cemented by how villainous they are. It's how it's applied.
So do we agree? If we agree, Gilly, do you agree to the vote?
Conceded.
All right,
I
Meep, announce
conceded
it.
beforehand.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Fall 2020. Best antagonist, our runner-up, Boss from Akudama Drive, and our winner, Mahito from Jujutsu Kaisen. And now, onto our next category, Best Couple. Our nominations, King and Makoto, Nakafuji, or King and Makoto from Ikebukuro Westgate Park, Nakafuji and Hino from Adachi to Shimamura, Adachi and Shimamura from Adachi to Shimamura, Hoodlum and Brawler from Akudama Drive, Swindler and Little Sister from Akudama Drive, Moriarty and Sherlock from Yukoku no Moriarty, and Sherlock and Watson from Yukoku no Moriarty.
Now,
Two.
since we were talking about Sherlock before, when you read out the ending, first of all, a lot of double ups from the same season, so this is going to be an interesting conversation. But I think the relationship between William and Sherlock is leagues better than the relationship between Sherlock and Watson.
Yeah. And you were the one that fought for Sherlock and Watson to be on there.
Was I?
Yeah, I was the one that was like, I don't think that stacks up to Moriarty and Sherlock. I think it was you and Gilly wanted them on there, though.
I think it's an important mention.
It's an important mention, yeah.
But like I've always complained about Watson being kind of a non-character in the show and just everything happening between them way too fast, and that's kind of why I feel the way I feel about them now.
Sherlock and Watson are fun together, but at the same time, it comes down to meta knowledge. Like, do I like them as a duo because I know their relationship, or do I like them as a duo because of how they are in the show? And while I still like them how they are in the show, it's not nowhere near as strong as Moriarty and Sherlock. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. I mean, Gilly, I'm not speaking for you. Chat's calling us out hard. It's like for best couple. Ah, yes, all the characters from all the shows.
But
I don't know what you're talking about. I know my picks.
I do too. And to lay all the cards out on the table now, first one would be Moriarty, or my winner is Moriarty and Sherlock. Runner up would be Hoodlum and Brawler.
In terms of Hoodlum and Brawler, we have two Akudama picks, right? We have Hoodlum and Brawler, and then we have Swindler and Little Sister. And yep. I think, well, it's obvious from I think it's obvious from our conversations about Brawler and Hoodlum in best support character, best side character. Little Sister, Emoto, and Swindler are fantastic. Like, they are fan-fucking-tastic together because, like, Swindler comes into her own fully due to her relationship with little sister. It's like this oddly maternal and supportive personality comes through, and you see Swindler being a good person, and like people doubt it, and like maybe even people like the audience will doubt it. But when you see her together and just looking after her, the little sister, and the way they come together at the very end, we kind of get to see the relationship that we wish we got to see between Hoodlum and Brawler. Uh, Instead of it being in hindsight, like Hoodlum thinking back, and you seeing Hoodlum talk about Brawler when he's gone, still not fully able to accept the fact that Brawler is dead. Like it hasn't really like solidified in their head. Those are really great, but we actually see Swindler and Emoto to kind of like interact, and just it is the most wholesome moments in the show, and the most adorable and just feel good moments is Swindler and Emoto together.
I I think we got a lot of Brawler and Hoodlum interacting. In fact, I think we got more than them and Moto. Well, it's mostly during tense situations. It's still a brotherly bond forming. It's kind of hard to compare the two because one is in more of a maternal bond of a big sister taking care of their little sister, whereas Brawler and Hoodlum, they're more on equal footing. It's less paternal and more actually brotherly and fostered through tense situation.
Yeah, like Brawler and Hoodlum are very much like, Yakuza and brotherly, while Emoto and Swindler are a lot more sisterly and maternal. I agree with that very much. But like a lot of Brawler and Hoodlum were like jokes. There was all a lot of comedy. It was all yeah, it was all a lot. It was a lot of it was comedy until the very end, and then it was just absolutely fucking beautiful. That what was it, episode 6? Uh,
Yeah, but bonds
and
formed through the comedy still shown through.
yes, yes, yes. But like with Swindler and Emoto, you get both the comedy later on, especially when little brother shows up and like Emoto's like curses and says shit and bitch now and shut up, and she's a little bratty, but that's because she's having a lot of fun and is kind of like adapting to the situation in her own way. Like seeing all that was great too, and I don't know, it's just I really enjoy seeing those two characters. It was a relationship I did not expect in the show, whereas with Brawler and Hoodlum, I expected it. I still enjoyed it so very much, but it was a relationship I didn't expect to see in this show, and it's one that I really, really, really enjoyed and like paid attention to and got a lot of like really emotionally invested.
I I personally didn't get anywhere near invested in their relationship. Like it was cute, but I wouldn't put it anywhere near Brawler and Hoodlum's relationship personally. It I think they're in two different leagues.
What say ye, Gilly? Can't believe Gilly's dead. Swindler cut him in the eye too.
I'm still confused how that killed that guy. Killed him with a tin can.
I don't think she killed him. I think she just cut his eye open.
It was sharp.
Thanks, Gilly.
That's my addition.
Well, what would your top picks be, Dalaran, then? Because I said mine. Mine's Moriarty, Sherlock, and then below that, Hoodlum and Brawler.
Honestly, as much as I'm arguing for Emoto and Sister, I think at the end I was kind of hoping to like get you guys more into a conversation regarding those two, because going in, I think my choices are runner-up Sherlock Moriarty and Brawler Hoodlum and in number one. Just because while we get to see the birth of a great relationship between Sherlock and Moriarty, and they're a delight to see together on the screen, In Akudama Drive, Hoodlum and Brawler, we get to see the birth, the birth, the acting out, the progression, the succession, and then the lasting, lingering effects of the relationship. But before we, like those would be my two votes. However, I still feel like we should talk about the other things on the list. Hello, guys. Did everyone die? Chat, can you
I'm
hear me?
here. I'm just tired.
Yeah, this is a lot more exhausting than we thought, huh, guys?
We've also sort of reached the point in the things we're talking about where I have very little to say.
Fair enough. I mean, you're gonna hate the fact that I was about to bring up the two couples in Adachi to Shimamura, and I think Meep is dead. In the meantime, while Meep comes back to life, where are you at when it comes to your top choices? Are you also in the Sherlock Moriarty and Brawler Hoodlum corner?
Uh, not. He's now offline. Not quite, actually.
Really?
I do put Brawler and Hoodlum up at the top from their from the very beginning of their relationship through every step of it, even after Brawler's death. I have loved their relationship because even after Brawler's death, it persisted in Hoodlum's mind as a regular thing and something he would he would hold on to until his final moments. And that is emotional, impactful. It shows the importance of that relationship to him,
Yeah,
and I can't put anything above Brawler and Hoodlums because it's just how it was played out throughout the entire thing, even when one of them was gone.
he never
Runner
really.
up
Yeah, it
is
like it feels like Brawler left, but it also simultaneously feels like he never did with Hoodlum and how they were together.
with yeah, with for Hoodlum it's like he was never. I mean, he's gone, but he's never gone. He's always there with him, influencing him, helping him decide like what to do and how to be a real man, which is something that like they sort of joked about, but it was also something that seemed to be an issue for Hoodlum is like how to be a real man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is prevalent in Japanese culture where people who fall into like macho like subcultures kind of struggle
Okay.
with their own sense of masculinity and place in the world, uh, and just it. I think we can all agree that Hoodlum had a very good ending.
And really, the whole thing you have to think about, as well as that, with his relationship constantly making him like, question how he can be like the best man he could be, is it really makes you wonder, like, how old do you think Hoodlum was?
I think Hoodlum's
Probably
like
mid
in his
20s.
30s. Actually, yeah, he looks a lot younger later on. So
I
yeah,
don't think he. I think with like his mindset, I would not say he was into his 30s.
I mean, he could also just be a fuck up, right?
He could, but I really don't think he's that old.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think mid 20s, maybe still teenager. I don't know.
No, he's definitely not a teenager,
I wouldn't
and
say
yeah,
teenager, but I could see early to mid 20s.
I'd say mid to late 20s.
It's just how impressionable he is for me, really.
Hmm. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he does look a lot younger. Yeah, mid 20s probably.
So, well, yeah, sorry about that. Well, my Discord was dying. What did I miss?
Nothing. We're just trying to figure out where each one of us stands. Gilly also agrees that Hoodlum and Brawler should be in the number one spot, but he has a different
My
runner-up in mind.
personally, for me, my runner-up leans. The more I've thought about it, the more I've really debated it in my head. I lean more into Makoto and Takashi, or Makoto and King.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't talk about them.
Hmm.
It's very subtle, but they have this incredible dynamic that like if the show's not for you or if you don't trust the show, it might feel like how do I put this? It might feel like underdeveloped or forced, but when you like look at their interactions just for what they are, there's this implicit trust between the two of them. And there's this really great scene in like I think the 10th episode where they're helping the couple with the the not sorry not the couple, whoa, wrong, the brother and sister who and the delinquent who broke the brother's leg and shattered it to the point where he can only stand on his feet for a few hours, like ruining their life plans of like opening up a restaurant together and whatnot. uh when that happened, there is this little scene where Makoto and King look at each other and just look with a few words between the two of them, not even each, that trust is utterly expressed. And
There,
King, despite it losing him his enforcer and his second in command, stuck by Makoto no matter what. And Makoto always relied on King, always knew he could rely on King and held his best interests at heart because they fully believed in each other and making Ikebukuro a better place. And their relationship dynamic is great, and we don't see a lot of subtlety like that anymore. It's usually just poorly designed.
the only thing I would have liked a lot more with King and Makoto's relationship that I think that could have actually brought it very close to overtaking number one for me is if they're if is if they had, and it's not the show, it's not the kind of show that would, but really wish we could have had some of their how their friendship formed explored. I continue to sit with the curiosity of how that friendship formed, and I
Agreed.
don't think I will ever know.
But
I
like
don't
that's
need to
another,
know. I just would love to actually know.
and I think that's what makes the relationship so strong is that you don't have a feeling like you need to know what happened to like actualize them because it's there. But I agree. I also would have really enjoyed seeing their dynamic. But who knows? That could have actually made it worse. Like, what if we don't like the official backstory?
Like you
Because
can tell that the worry behind these characters, how much they care for each other. Especially, it's kind of interesting. Right at the end, you see how much King cares for Makoto, getting in the way of so many things, getting shot for him, immediately waking up from that, and his first thought before anything else is, "Where is Makoto?"
they are the
Nothing else he
best of
thinks about.
boys.
He wakes up after being shot and being in a mini coma, and the first thing he thinks about is, "Where's my boy?"
I want to see my baby boy.
I'm sure if Hoodlum got shot for Brawler, that would be his first thought too.
I Brawler would go fucking berserk.
Yeah, I that would have been interesting because Brawler would have just started killing people.
Sorry, correction. More berserk than normal.
Brawler would have went guts from Berserk.
Full rage. I would like to enter a frenzied rage.
Like a lot of what we have listed are very good relationships, very good couples, but just the sheer like bond that either formed or was already present with Brawler and Hoodlum and then King and Makoto is why they bring themselves to the top for me.
Okay.
Just the raw bond between them.
Raw Bond.
All right. Well, the last one we have to talk about, which I'm not going to argue for. Well, I guess we can also talk about Adachi and Shimamura, but
Yeah, there are the two
Nakafu-
Adachis and Shimamura couples.
Nakafuji and Hino are fantastic together. They are a really good example of a lesbian couple because I fully believe they are actually romantically involved. They're definitely romantic with each other.
I don't care if it's romantic. They have a healthy relationship.
It's true.
That's all I care about there. They're very good with each other. They're happy to do whatever with each other. They just love to be around each other, and they're healthy and kind and good to each other and good for each other.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction. Well, I think that's really fascinating about their characters is that they are very much so side characters. They actually kind of like create this. They actually have a more successful relationship than Adachi or Shimamura.
Yeah, that's why I place them above each other.
Well, the thing is though, like Adachi and Shimamura have only just recently met and are still working through the kinks in their relationship. As far as Hino and Nagafuji are concerned, they've known each other since childhood and they've had the time to kind of create and establish their relationship. And we see it come to fruition, but the show understands that their situation, in terms of a drama and story aspect, is a lot less interesting than what Adachi and Shimamura are going through. While they are more wholesome, while they are healthier, they are more wholesome, they are more concrete and concise. Um, it's sorry, I'm now thinking about like they actually kind of had a concise closed ending. Like Nagafuji and Hino are together. I mean, they bathe together. They Nagafuji straight up took Hino's hand and put it on her body, and it's like you may feel me up if you want to, and it's just like okay, so okay,
You have
but
permission to grow one whole A titty.
it's more like a D titty or double D titty.
Ho-
But anyway,
Honestly,
Hmm.
oh well,
as much as I hate
been a
going
whole
into
stream since we got
detail,
a spam bot.
Oh,
as much as I hate going into any kind of detail for Adachi to Shimamura, uh, Hino Nakafuji, for me, I do like their relationship. I actually think part of what they were built to be is they acted as a sort of like this device to be the ideal, what is wanted, what is desired, the ideal of the relationship that uh is wanted.
did I ever tell you guys about the dream I had after our episode where we married the shows?
I is this TOS approved me?
I won't go into too much detail because I actually had a dream where, because apparently anime has a thing for clock towers, Adachi and Shimamura went to the clock tower that was on their campus and they found Nakafuji and Hino basically making out and feeling each other up. And in the rest of that dream, it was the episode playing out in Adachi and Shimamura becoming a couple because they saw that and realized, oh, it's okay to like girls. And it was a weird dream.
Go
This
up
is
to
a
the clock
wholesome.
tower.
This
They
is
go
a
up to the clock.
wholesome fanfic. Meep, I approve.
They go up to the clock tower and they see Hino and Nakafuji, and they all sit down and have sea salt ice cream and talk about Kingdom Hearts.
God damn it, Gilly.
How would you two feel about? We still have to talk about. We can still talk about Dachi Shimura, but the more I think about it, how would you two feel about Hoodlum Brawler winner, Nakafuji and Hino runner up?
I I'm sorry. I'm still not sold about Hino Nagafuji on the runner up slot. I
I
like him a lot. I really do. I agree with everything you guys said. However, uh, Gilly, yes, they're kind of like they show us that I can't call them like they are the counterexample. They are the ideal because we don't get enough of them, which is intentional because the show is focused on Adachi and Shimomura. Adachi to Shimomura. The I really like Nagafuji Hino. I like Hino Fuji. Nakahino is great. I ship him. I wish him all the best. And but the way I see their relationship is that they are there to remind the audience that the relationship between two girls can happen, and it can happen in a healthy, wholesome way. That it doesn't have to be this anxious mess. That it can be difficult, but it can work. And I think they are integral to the show, and I love that they're part of the cast. But to put them over Moriarty or Sherlock, I cannot. And what Gilly said has strongly made me consider Makoto and King. So that is still the tie in my mind and in my heart for the runner-up spot.
I I
As
just I just
as
oh,
much as much as I like Hino and Nakafuji, I one of the only things that I could bear to stand through, I just my reason for not wanting to put them higher up is a very similar reason to why I dropped Junpei for supporting character. Is while it is a fantastic relationship, they feel more literary device than they do anything else. And it's not a bad thing. It's just it's how it is for me. The literary device to be just the example of the ideal.
just a part of me wants a like a a part of me.
In my opinion towards Hino and Nakafuji is not as extreme or upsetting as my opinion towards Junpei is, but it's similar.
A part of me just wants a romantic couple to be on the list.
I get it, but what can we say? We had the best couple comes from. Well, we don't know how heterosexual the Moriarty and Sherlock are going to be, but
Look, all this is all we're learning here is the best relationships are bromances.
Well, then the ones I'm heavily gonna push for are Hoodlum Brawler for number one because it seems like both of you are okay with that, and I'm okay with that. And
well,
then Sherlock and Moriarty for runner up.
let's talk about Adachi to Shimomura because they are really important. They may not
Yeah.
win, but they are really important.
Let me just go turn my brain off real quick.
Okay, buddy.
Oh. I listen. I love the two of them together. I love seeing their growth. The fact that they aren't good for each other at first, I enjoyed. Like, because I wanted to see them work through it. And to an extent, they do work through some of those problems. And they eventually start growing with each other. They grow through each other. They find reasons to step into the next day through each other. They're in a weird way, they're both bad but good for each other.
I think at the end of the day, that let's call a spade a spade. The toxic elements, which are understandably there for their age, for their own individual mental health, for their cultural context of their relationship, but the toxic elements that are there, and there's no point of like trying to work around it because you're doing the show a disservice because they're intentionally there, do keep are keeping me from putting them on the top or the runner up. And I hate to say it, but whoever wins the tie at the end, Moriarty, Sherlock Moriarty, or Makoto King, that the loser will get the bronze in my heart, which sucks, right? Because like I do really enjoy Adachi Toshimomura as a romance anime and a slice of life high school story. It's just with the ending not giving us anything concise and not giving a clear definition of what their relationship is, and the later half of the season devolving into kind of like this back to Adachi tiptoeing around the situation and Shimomura kind of just. I did enjoy seeing Shimomura come into herself, but like it's a great show. It's just ironically the relationship is the storytelling mechanic and not what the story at the end turns out to be about. At least not in the way that, you know, not in the romantic sense. And like you said before me, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's just there's not enough there for me to really feel strongly about putting them on top.
I just really enjoyed seeing them get like looking through it through Shimamura's perspective. It's them getting closer as friends. Adachi is a friend that Shimamura won't drop now. That to me, that's what the ending was cementing because before in when they first went to the next class, Adachi was avoiding Shimamura and Shimamura much like with Nakafuji and Hino, didn't go out of her way to try and talk to Adachi. Like she would still answer Tarumi's phone calls, but she put no effort to talk to Adachi again. And that's what the ending was to me, was a concrete of Shimamura with her saying that Adachi is her Sakura blossom, was her acknowledging that she won't drop Adachi as a friend. That's what the ending was to me because I know we had this conversation before where you said that you didn't think Shimamura would drop Adachi as a friend before, but we see her actively, or not actively, in fact, the opposite of actively. She doesn't go out of her way to interact with Adachi when Adachi is avoiding her. She doesn't even seem worried, really. She's just back to living her regular life of not caring and just wandering through this sea of darkness.
Like again, this relationship is fantastic, but you know it helps Shimamura get back in touch with her emotions and like stop seeing the world through depressive deassociation. It helps Adachi kind of reach out and realize that she's not this like social freak that no one likes because like Adachi will have imposter syndrome for many more years of her life, but she really does feel ostracized. Like she feels like she has no place to belong. One of the things that I'm sad the show didn't do more of is that we got to see a lot of Shimamura and her mom, but we didn't really get a sense of Adachi and her mom much post that the bath scene, the gym and the sauna scene, and that
Sure
wasn't
was a
even
lot scene.
Shimamura and Adachi.
Hmm.
Sorry, that wasn't even Adachi and her mom. That was Shimamura and her mom and Adachi's mom. And it's just, man, it's Adachi. It's God. Adachi has really bad codependency, and that's not really resolved at the end of the season. Like, I relate to both characters, but I relate more to Adachi to Shimamura because I really suffer, and I suffered and sometimes still suffer from codependency, where it's like you just get overthink things and you check your phone to see if someone messaged you because all you want is for them to acknowledge you, and it comes from like a deep rooted uh, insecurity of like not being loved, and like it's really hard seeing these characters suffer, and it's incredibly well done and representative of many of these emotions. It's just it doesn't really come to an end, you know, like it doesn't really bring it somewhere. Like you
What I
said, there's
can
no
see,
closure.
sorry, what I can see happening with this show is if it gets a second season, because again, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this adapted all of the light novel. What I can see happening is maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it only adapted half the light novel and we might get a second season. I could be completely wrong. It's just I haven't been able to find much about this on the internet. Even that statement that I saw of the author, I'm not too sure how credible that is. I even specified at the time, I'm not sure how credible this is, but it. What I can see happening is this getting another season at some point, and delving more into them dealing with the toxicity of everything. And if it did adapt all of the light novel, I can see the author getting involved in the making of this. But I would definitely be up to see a second season if there will be one.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I guess these are awards. This is like when we do the show, we try to be objective, and even now we're still trying to be objective about what we nominate and what gets the actual awards. But I guess like deep down, we're allowed to be a little bit more subjective and selfish and self representative, and I guess what I was really hoping for with this show. And this wasn't in my disappointments because it's not a disappointment, but I guess like what I wanted from the show is just to see like the victory between the two of them over their individual and respective mental traumas and mental conditions. But regardless, or like, it's not even mental. Well, I mean, it does become mental. It becomes a pathological like pattern. But yeah, they're emotional conditions because it all comes from the emotions. But regardless, Adachi Toshimamura, I don't think is going to get either gold or silver. It's not going to win or be the runner up. So I feel like if there's other things you guys want to say about the relationship, please. I do genuinely hold a lot of love and affection for this show. I do recommend it to this day. But so I'm always happy to talk about it. But we do need to decide who the runner up is.
I think runner up should go to Sherlock and Moriarty personally. King and King and Makoto at the end of the day, a lot of what you two see of it just it sounds like it comes from two episodes in specific. Whereas with Sherlock and Moriarty, we get their relationship throughout 4 or 5 episodes at least. And this game of cat and mouse of Sherlock being dependent on wanting to catch Moriarty and Moriarty needing Sherlock for his plan. What other relationship could be better than a symbiotic relationship?
But you really only have
Because
2 episodes of actual relationship building, and it really hasn't had a lot of time to gestate into much yet, other than a dynamic.
that's that is true. It's just the symbiotic relationship between them is fascinating to me. Because Sherlock gets more credit from solving more cases from Moriarty, and Moriarty needs him as a force of good for his plan. And that kind of symbiotic relationship is very fascinating to me and how they've handled it.
Like, as much as I love their 2 characters and I love what's building, I personally think that the relationship between Sherlock and Moriarty needs more time, needs to build more, needs to develop and evolve more throughout their interactions, and it just hasn't had a lot of time to do that because it was on the later half of the show with only 2 real episodes with direct interaction and building because everything happening in the shadows was it was very indirect, and it wasn't direct building upon the like building blocks on the relationship itself.
Mm, that is true.
Here's how I see it, right? Because Makoto King and Sherlock Moriarty are the two headrunners for me. Are the two like are they tied for runner up? So I agree with Gilly what he says, but like I agree with Gilly where like Sherlock Moriarty haven't had a lot of scenes together, but this I also agree with Meep as the same thing could be said for Makoto King. I enjoy the two different relationships in different ways, from like different aspects. You like Sherlock and Moriarty. whenever they're together, it's an absolute delight. And without even letting the context of Sherlock, the Sherlock property kind of like cloud, or not cloud, prime my judgment, kind of like why I guess, like you guys are absolutely right. Like Sherlock, while he is supposed to be this great antagonist and we all have these expectations, and these expectations have very much primed how we view the character, there not a lot has been done to really show it. When Moriarty and William, when William Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes are together, it's just an absolute fucking delight to see them talk, go ham. The best moments of the show is when they are together, because it's just these two brilliant, smarmy, self-assured, uh, kind of like mentally provoking individuals just simultaneously dancing together while fighting each other. It's awesome. More King and Makoto, on the other hand, their relationship and the interesting thing about him comes from the intricacy and the subtleness in it. That even when King is not on the screen, you know that him and Makoto have each other's back. Like, we don't see Makoto get angry a lot, or frustrated, but when King doesn't answer his calls, it's not because boyfriend isn't picking up my calls. It's because, like, fuck, man, like, I need to rely on you, and I'm not used to you not being accessible. And you just see that relationship always in these little snippets throughout the season, throughout each episode, whenever they're together, where the way they talk to each other, the way Makoto speaks with King, he doesn't speak with anyone else. And it's really hard to decide, because one, just to bring the argument to completion, just to, bring it full circle, on one hand you have Sherlock Moriarty, which is very much explicitly entertaining and just delightfully charismatic and brilliant and witty and snippy. And then you have Makoto and King, which are very much more subtle and intricate and implicit, but are consistently there and wholesome and honestly just really nice to see. So that's where the tie in me comes from, and I really don't know which way to go.
You're dealing with, like, the main thing you're dealing with is a difference between a new, fresh, budding friendship and an already established, cemented one, where
Yeah.
the interactions come in very different ways. A long-standing established relationship, like with Makoto and King, is so it is subtleties, and it is like their conversations may be a total of 20 words between both of them by the time they're done, but you can feel and you can see the level of, like, care and worry they have for each other, and a- how they just want to do whatever they can to help each other and make sure things go right.
I'm just laughing because everything is Adachi Toshimamura at the end, because you just expressed the same thing we said about Nagafuji Hino, Nagahino, and Adachi Shimamura. Where do you stand on this, Meep?
Well, I'd prefer Sherlock and Moriarty over Makoto and King. I think it's going to be up to you, Dalaran, to be the deciding vote.
Ah, fuck. Well, okay, how about this, Meep? How do you feel about the two differences and dynamics that I've expressed?
I I ultimately stand on in the it feels, at least in the early episodes, it feels less like Makoto and King are friends and more that Makoto was indebted to King. And well, you can see that they are friends in the later episodes. I don't get that until the very like the one with the brother and sister whose leg was shattered. Like early on, I had the impression that Makoto was indebted to King, like you said you were worried about, Dal.
That is true. I also did have my own anxieties and trepidations about King's and Makoto's relationship. But I mean, honestly, that's a point I didn't consider, and that might actually tip me. Also, I would like to throw this to chat. if anyone has any strong feelings about Sherlock Moriarty or Makoto King, feel free to drop them in now. They will be considered, seeing as I have become the deciding vote who gets the runner-up slot. Ah.
I mean, I'm fine with either that makes it in. I just have my preference.
No, no, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, when you really think about it, if it if the relationship had to do with being indebted, I don't think King would be almost. he- they're like at each other's beck and call. If King calls, Makoto comes. If Makoto calls, as long as King is available, he comes.
Mm.
Phrasing.
They're he's a gang leader, and yet he'll still jump the second he knows that Makoto needs him. If he as long as there's we had one situation where he could not get through to King because something was going on.
Mm.
But every other time, if he called, it was right to him.
I I am beaming right now. This is really fun. I am very indecisive. Which is ironic because I can be very much decisive for other people and when like in actions, but when it comes to like decisions like this, I get really like lost in the details. Ah, I'm trying to decide whether or not my affection towards Sherlock and Moriarty is being primed by my knowledge of Sherlock, the Sherlock property.
All I know is
Hmm.
I'm fully expecting that when spring rolls around and we watch part 2 of Koku no Moriarty, I am fully expecting to be choosing them as best couple by the end of that, because I think by the end of that will be the perfect amount of time to really cement their relationship.
Yeah.
Like I'm calling that now, like 6 months ahead of time.
Can I mention a dark horse real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Gojo
Katy
and
Perry.
Itadori. Gojo and Itadori as I hold up a gun.
No.
uh,
I,
Gojo and Itadori's relationship is fun and it's bouncy and it's dynamic and they play off of each other really well, but they have the flaws of both Sherlock Moriarty and Makoto King. Whereas with Sherlock Moriarty, they haven't had enough time to really grow into it and kind of become like an established thing. And with Makoto King, that it's not explored enough. Like it's just fun.
hmm.
a
Well, what?
possibly controversial opinion. I I'd personally go for Nanami and Gojo over
Fair,
Gojo and Itadori,
fair.
because Nanami and Gojo do actually have an established relationship, but it is so funny because Nanami doesn't seem like he wants anything to do with his shit. But at the same time, they're friends.
But what about Toda and Idol Girl?
Uh, no,
Makoto. Oh, sorry, go on.
no, it's responding to Meep. Go on.
I think I've come to a decision. While I really enjoyed King, and I don't remember which one of us brought it up to who nominated Makoto King for the for the nomination for the
I think
award.
it was both you and Gilly.
Yeah, yeah, we were both adamant about it. I forgot who mentioned it. I just remember both of us feeling strongly about it, and it's for good reason. Makoto King is a really good dynamic that that I don't get to see and enjoy very often, which is the reason why I kind of was really strongly like wanting to give it the nomination, but to give it the second place. But alas, it suffers for the same thing that a lot of the other aspects of Ikebukuro Westgate Park suffers is that Makoto is the main character and we just don't get enough of King, and as a result, while it succeeds very well in establishing the sense of trust and everything, we don't really get a lot of the relationship explicitly. So I'm gonna have to give it to you to Sherlock Moriarty, because they are a delight to see. They are a delight to see together, and we get to see this relationship kind of grow and actualize on right before our eyes. But damn it, that was a really hard call to make.
Another honorable mention, just because I'll give the, even though I didn't like it that much, I'll
Cool.
give the show
Taking the wind right out of my decision, Meep.
Makoto
Fuck
and
you.
Guo. Makoto and Guo, his adoptive sister. I actually did like their relationship together.
Whose?
Makoto and Guo, his adoptive sister.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, if it was him and Guo, I may have picked that over Sherlock and Moriarty. I'll be honest.
I like Makoto and Go, like, they pale to King and Makoto, because while they have a nice moment in that one episode when she comes back, it's like it's really contrived, and I think that's one of the weaker episodes of the show where she becomes a sister. It's very last minute. It's kind of like, okay, she is your new sister.
Her introduction episode wasn't much for me, but I will say I did their 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 formed relationship in subsequent episodes when she showed up. And obviously it's something that happened off screen, but it's really nice and it's really sweet. And I brought it up before. One of my favorite parts of the first episode that she comes back is uh when Makoto was asking if this was one of the days when she was gonna like come over and have dinner and help around the shop. And I still, to this moment right now, absolutely love that, because that tells you right there that she's been coming by regularly and spending time as an actual family with her basically adopted family.
Fair.
And it made it
Very true.
so sweet.
Well, if we're all good with those picks, uh, does anyone else have any final words, or are we okay with this choice?
Uh, I've made my decision, though it was a really hard decision.
I am
Well,
saddened, but it but it just won't go anywhere from this point.
we- listen, all of us got Brawler and Hoodlum as number one, so we all got our wish. Well,
I just
congrats.
know by the end of next season, Sherlock and Moriarty's relationship will have like the real cementing I need for it, but I'm gonna feel so weird putting them up for nomination at that point because
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
the thing.
why two times in a row?
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's the thing. Like,
honestly,
I was trying not to meta game, quote unquote, not to like use meta knowledge and like, oh, Sherlock's getting a second season. No, I really enjoyed them together.
I think it's going to be inevitable because I imagine we're going to be nominating Gojo for Best Supporting Character again next season, Itadori for Best Main Character again next season. It's one of those like inevitable things where, because some shows are having different lengths, it's weird, but I will concede as well. Nakafuji and Hino won't make it, so I'm okay with Sherlock and Moriarty. Well, congratulations. Best couple of fall 2020. Sherlock and Moriarty as the runner up, and our winner, Brawler and Hoodlum of Akudama Drive. And our next category will be Best Ensemble. Nominated for Best Ensemble, we have Akudama Drive, Yukoku no Moriarty, Adachi Toshimamura, and Jujutsu Kaisen.
Akudama Drive.
Yeah, I'm okay with Akudama Drive winning just because Yukoku no Moriarty didn't really do much with their ensemble. Neither did Jujutsu. I'd put Adachi as the runner-up.
Not to like strong arm, but love or hate how what they did with the characters dying off one and one. You would not have this strong of a reaction if you did not care or like the characters and immediately love or hate them. We all really liked we didn't love all the characters, but we liked all the characters with the exception of Courier. Uh, we all
Like a show making you like the characters and then killing them off is the reason I don't like Game of Thrones.
no, that's fair, my dude. Like that's a
Yeah,
valid fucking point.
yeah,
Don't
that's
don't don't
valid.
make, don't attach me to a character if you're gonna murder them before my eyes.
But this
Listen,
show wouldn't hurt so much if you didn't care about the characters or you didn't want to continue seeing more of the characters. And we've had some amazing character writing. And I mean, if anyone ever played with D&D with me or had me DM for them, they would know that character writing and character moments and just characters is my most favorite thing in writing and creativity. So Adachi Toshimomura has a fantastic cast. It's a small roster of core characters, much like a Akudama Drive, just in a very different setting and world. But not all the characters really play the same role or have the same agency as they do in Akudama Drive.
it's
Yeah, go ahead.
it's just rough because of all the shows nominated, Akudama Drive is the only one that has a focus on it being a group. It's the only one that like focuses on the group, which is why to me it's the only one that I think I would put at number one because the others, while they have an ensemble, the ensemble doesn't play a huge part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When we were picking things out for ensemble, we had a whole conversation about this because there's not many with like a dedicated ensemble. That's the whole thing. Like
Yeah,
I
that
am fine with Akadama up in first. I don't even know what to pick as runner up. I might just default to whatever ends up being popular between the two of you
so
because
I know
I
you
don't
didn't.
even I can't really stand behind any of the other ones very
Would you be
much.
would you be okay with Adachi Toshimomura as runner up because the side characters were the only things you could enjoy in it?
Well, let's take a moment, shall we? Um,
Like
let's go
so
down the list. You want to start with for runner up? You want to start up with Adachi Toshimomura?
Well, what were you going to say, Gilly?
Oh, sorry.
all I was gonna say was I I will say in terms of our choices, as much as I married the show, but I don't. There's not a lot of things I have nominated Yukiko no Moriarty for, and it's just because I think it does everything above average, but I don't personally find it doing any one thing phenomenally better. But when it does everything better than normal, that averages out to being a fantastic show. Uh,
Mhm.
but either way, I guess if I guess I think I'd stand behind Jujutsu Kaisen for runner up because I love the characters. I need more, but I love them and I love what they're setting up with them. Just not it's just been a bit and nothing and I don't think we're really going to get into them until this next season, which is the rough part about trying to stand behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is why I sort of come for my runner-up at being Adachi Toshimura, because say what you want about the show, but we always get something with the side characters, whether it be Nakafuji and Hino, or Little Alien and Little Shimamura, and those moments are always so cute. They're really nice, they're really wholesome, and even when we get stuff with, just Adachi and Hino, it's really cute, really wholesome. It's these side characters, Dachi Toshimura, well, they're like nowhere near as integral as the main characters. Side characters are really good, and as much as I love Jujutsu, I have to agree with you, Gilly. It has, for this season, it had two really strong side characters, being Nanami and Gojo. We haven't really done much with the others, though, is my sort of knock against it.
All right, so let's talk about Jujutsu Kaisen first then, because it seems to be the weakest link at the moment.
Yukiko
I
no Moriarty is the weakest link to me. I'm just
okay. So
because. Oh,
with
sorry.
Jujutsu Kaisen, we have this. This is how I feel about the season, right? Or I guess the half season. Um, you have interesting characters introduced, and none of them are really just like throwaways. Like we have the senpais, the second years or third years, whoever they are, who are really strong, come into play, and they have like a little moment introduction, but they don't really stick around. You have Gojo, who has incredibly strong scenes, um, but again, at the very end, doesn't stick around. You have Nobara and Fushiguro, who both have very passively impressive uh, introductions, but the show just gets rid of them in the last 4 or 5 episodes. And I really, I really like the ensemble. And you have Junpei, who might be fucking deaded. Um, I like the ensemble that Jujutsu Kaisen is doing, but maybe it's because it's a shonen. It is very much main character focused, and it's a lot less main character focused than many other shonens, which is one of the reasons I really like it. But at the end, it's still not using its ensemble as well as it could have. Certainly not as good as some of the other shows on this list.
The reason I think it's not using its ensemble much in this first half is because we're going to be getting a lot of shining moments of them in the next. Like my theory for how next season is going to go, because they're not going to show Itadori is alive until the games. I have a feeling we're not going to get much of him aside from like cutaways, while the rest are doing their training and the other students are being introduced.
Okay.
Like, I understand why the show did it this way. The author and mangaka really wanted to introduce Itadori, cement him as a character, cement his personality, cement his resolve, and while giving him that character development to try and because a lot of the times in anime, the main characters end up being some of the weaker parts of the show. Like Naruto, Fairy Tail especially. Fairy Tail is a fucking big example of it. Who likes Natsu?
I thought Natsu was alright. I only watched a little bit of Fairy Tail though.
He's a mixture of Luffy and Goku. That is all he is.
Better than whatever Astra is.
Yeah. But I the show does really good things with Gojo and Nanami. But if we're judging by the whole ensemble, that includes Nobara, Fushiguro, and the 3 second years. And we haven't seen much of them, so I can't in all good conscience put them up for best ensemble yet. Maybe next season. Or not next season, next half season. But as of
Yeah.
this moment,
As far as shonen go, it uses ensemble very well, but it's some stiff competition this season. Gilly, any thoughts on Jujutsu?
Not more than what I've already said.
now let's touch on Yukoku no Moriarty. Yukoku no Moriarty has some fun characters. It has a weird character in Fred. Does absolutely nothing with them after the 3rd episode and 5th episode.
Yeah. I think Yukoku no Moriarty has a more interesting ensemble, but I think because of that, this show is even more guilty of not using it well enough. Like, that's our constant complaint, is that Yukoku no Moriarty does not use its ensemble.
Like Lewis had 3 lines in its last episode. It's the most he had since episode 2. Certainly more than Albert's ever gotten since episode 2 or 3. It, Like, I love Yukoku no Moriarty. I love the show. It's just, for this category, I don't think it stacks up.
What's the other show? Adachi to Shimamura?
Adachi to Shimamura, which is the one I'm arguing for runner-up, because each episode, it does something with the side characters that's meaningful and furthers a relationship. Well, Lil Shimamura and Little Alien aren't directly affecting the story, and a lot of the time, Akafuji and Hino aren't. You're still seeing the side characters getting the development in their little stories getting forwarded. And you're still getting something out of the ensemble. There's still something there. And the ensemble is very well used, be it when Nakafuji and Hino are both helping out Shimamura and Adachi, respectively, picking out gifts. Like, they're well used, and even in the last episode, when they're all at soccer practice, and they show up, and they go, "Oh, wow, you two are close. Yeah, we bathed together. Oh, you two bathed together." It's just these little interactions that all stack up really well, and the side characters I really enjoyed, and honestly, it's the only other show I can think of that I'd actually say used its ensemble well.
Huh. Meep, you make a good point, and you make a strong argument. Gilly, do you have anything you want to say at this point? Because I think Meep might have shifted my perspective, but I'm trying to put it into words.
Like I said it right at the beginning of this. The only real ensemble that I could stand behind is Akadama Drive. I can't even pick a runner up. It's just I'm just gonna have to default to just agreeing with whatever you two decide on. So I can't pick any of what we have left really.
So this is how I'm seeing it. I think we're having a bit of like a... After talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, yes, I see Jujutsu Kaisen as not the... It's just not going to win. It just doesn't use its ensemble well enough. It kind of... Whatever. We'll see how it is in the second half. Yukoku no Moriarty has a really interesting ensemble of characters that unfortunately just doesn't use well enough. We've talked about this probably every single episode of our FMK. But they're really interesting. Adachi to Shimamura has, I would argue, considered like less interesting characters as its ensemble, but it uses them in a much better way.
It's almost like they're high school students and not, super powerful people.
Oh, they're not super powerful. They're just, yeah, I got you.
What do you mean? There's Jujutsu Kaisen, Akudama Drive, and the other one is Yukoku no Moriarty, and they're fascinating because they're living in Victorian England.
Yeah. I think... Yeah, Man, this is tough, but I have to give it to Adachi to Shimamura because when it comes to when it comes to Yukoku no Moriarty, William James Moriarty and Sherlock are the best parts of the show. We constantly want more from Albert. We want more from Lewis. I want more from Watson. Miss Hudson's a delight, but we got an episode of her. It's just I can't, in all fairness, vote for a show that has left me in wanting, despite having more interesting characters. I need to vote for what is there, not what I believe to be the potential of something. Because if that potential isn't realized, I'm just setting myself up. So Adachi to Shimamura gets it because, man, it uses its characters incredibly well. Sometimes in subtle ways, and sometimes in explicit ways. Nagahino is a really great counter dynamic, and just like this kind of like example in the background to kind of both solidify the audience and kind of or like, how do I put this, not encourage, kind of like regardless, it's kind of
Foil? Is that the word you're looking
no,
for?
no, not the foil. It's like not secure. Anyway, yeah, it's a good way to just help remind the audience that things can be good and reassure. Got it. And Chikama is super cute. The alien girl. Her design is gorgeous. The way the effects around her hair, and she's just fun and bubbly, and she doesn't have to mean much. She just is. And the little sister, which I think is severely underutilized, plays a role, and the small roster is like intimately connected with each other, and each person kind of serves a point and is both a narrative device and just a fun character. So yeah, I'll give it to Adachi.
Alrighty. Congratulations for Best Ensemble Fall 2020 to our runner-up, Adachi Toshimura, and our winner, Akudama Drive, which was such a strong winner we didn't even have to talk about it.
I mean, we should probably mention,
We
a few
already
things
talked about
about
its
it.
ensemble a lot during this awards, so
It's true. It's true. Just I guess then as a finale, the ensemble of Akudama Drive is incredible. The it's There's really nothing else to put about it. I've said this multiple times. The show uses its cast in a way that no other show does, or very few shows succeed in doing, where each character serves a role, a purpose, and they all have relationships and constantly active uh, opinions of one another, and attitudes toward one another. And man, I mean, yeah, it's just really fucking good. I guess what Meep said is true. It's so good that we don't really need to talk about it. It's just an incredible show with incredibly well written characters that are the main focal point of the show, to the point where the whole ensemble is billed as the main cast. So I guess that says enough.
now our next category, Best Opening. Our nominees: Kaikai Kitan from Jujutsu Kaisen, Needle Knot from Ikebukuro Westgate Park, Dying Wish from Yukoku no Moriarty, and Steel from Akudama Drive. How to start this one off? So, for full transparency for me, when it comes to best opening, the music is completely subjective, so I'm more grading on visuals. Screw it. I'll lay my cards out on the table right now. I'd put winner as Dying Wish, runner up as Kaikai Kitan.
Eh.
What about you two?
I mean, you kind of opened up with your you kind of opened up with your vote already, so it kind of like I'm trying to. I guess I have to make a decision now.
I don't know how else to talk about the openings here. It's a weird one. Guess I could talk about the visuals in each of them, but the only ones I can really mention are the two of Yukoku no Moriarty that uses its opening Dying Wish uses its visuals fantastically. Like it's very thematic towards like the game of cat and mouse of Sherlock and Moriarty, but I guess the show also doesn't have that game of cat and mouse as prevalent as the opening would have you believe, but there's the whole aspect of Moriarty faking his death in that, but again the show doesn't use that, so it's odd. Kaikai Kitan for Jujutsu Kaisen has some fun visuals, but it is generic shonen opening. I won't lie. That's why I have it as a runner up. Really, is it like it has a lot of cool shots, like at the end where you see the finger growing the stem in the water. You see the fish around Itadori's leg, then the mouth opens up on his cheek. But I don't know. when it's these musical categories, I'm gonna have a hard time discussing. Really,
Gilly, are you good to talk about the to start off with talking about the Moriarty opening? I shall take your silence as a yes. Um, I really like the Moriarty opening, like a lot. The visuals are I don't know, right? Because like the show cut off at 11 episodes instead of 13, so maybe the studio had different expectations for the show and the story they're going to tell in this part with their opening. But I agree, the opening sets up a lot of like expectations. It's a hype opening. Also, the songs in all the nominations are absolute bangers, like without a doubt. Uh, man, this is tough. I agree. The
oh,
Gothic Victorian England visuals, the cityscapes that are gorgeous, the blood moon, the masquerade ball, the bloody lily, uh, William James's full range of emotion being expressed throughout the opening. The song itself, an original song meant specifically for the anime. It's just, it's really good.
I would like to make a quick apology. I forgot. I did forget a nomination. We also had the I can't remember its name, but the opening to Fruit Tart nominated.
Oh, Root.
I do remember we nominated it. I just don't have it down here for some reason.
Gilly, unless you have things you want to say about the Yukoku no Moriarty opening, feel free to jump on that fruit tart.
Well, the reason it's not written there is because we decided against it.
Oh, did we? Oh, okay.
Well, it's already brought up, so I have some nice things that I could say about it. If Gilly, you don't want to go first.
See, the thing is, because of how I because of how I am with both openings and closings, I have a very different grading scale for this. Because other than the very first episode, I don't watch the opening anymore afterwards.
Ah.
I don't watch it. If it's what I decide on whether I skip it or not is if it's something I like, I'll listen to it, but I won't watch anything anymore. So when I have to grade this, I have to grade it based off the song because that's really what I pay attention to.
Hmm, that's
That's
fair.
why that's why I don't lean into Yukoko no Moriarty's opening because the song just didn't do much for me. Um, I from what I from what I do remember from the first episode, I did quite enjoy Fruit Tart's opening. I liked how it sounded. It was really nice. It was cheery, and it was just the opening is really cute and bubbly, unlike the closing. Um,
I thought you were
and
gonna say
where
unlike
you
the show.
just like there are plenty of moments where the show is cute and bubbly, just only in the first couple episodes, and then not until the last couple episodes. But it's just it the opening of them just it's all just like it shows all of them just walking around doing their little interviews to start it off, and then you just have like random like cute little shots. There is like the one menacing shot of the president of Cat Productions and like the lead producer. But it's all this just real fun, cute little imagery, and I love the song. It's on one of the playlists. That's why I know what songs I like.
Hmm.
I I do distinctly remember enjoying. I remember saying on the first episode of Fruit Tart that I really liked the opening. The song is catchy. It's not. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's good, but it is certainly catchy. And I remember liking how the first episode worked the opening into itself. Like they're like, you're going to be an idol group, and everyone's like, eh? And then it just starts the opening. It's like, oh, sirens. I think
Then they
those are
make
the
the
eighth.
controversial statement. Then they make the controversial statement saying the Earth is round.
That that didn't. I'm just gonna say right now, that didn't sound like sirens. That sounded like creatures from hell trying to escape through your mic, Dalaran.
Yeah.
Damn it, you caught me.
Are you summoning creatures from the beyond in your apartment again?
Yeah, I'm being a devil summoner.
That's our Dalaran.
Da-da-da-da-da. That actually hurt. Ow. I like pounded my chest. Anyway, yeah, I do remember really enjoying how the first episode introduced the opening and how it like really set up like the whole concept of kind of like these, dropout idols, kind of like this ragtag amateur group. And looking back on it before making our nominations, I really enjoyed how the whole thing feels like an indie video project, like an indie TV show. It feels like they're recording something, and it's cute. It lets a lot of the earnesty and wholesomeness of the concept of the show shine through. I can't really. I think it's a really good opening, and but even like without considering that like the show was not what it set itself up to be in the opening itself, I don't think it really holds a candle to the other openings we have on our list. It's really fun. It's nice. I like the camera angles. They of course have Nina jump roping, so boobies. But otherwise, yeah.
Let me look at the nominations. See if there's any easy cuts. Uh, let's.
I can bring up Steel since I know that you guys are the least enthusiastic about it.
Sure, that's the one that I'd say is an easy cut here. At least for me.
I think Steel is an incredible opening. The song, while maybe not everyone's cup of tea, really fits the energy of the show. There's some really fun visuals there sprinkled around when the song goes oh yo oh yo oh yo. Otherwise, like the use of the characters once again shines through in this. The dark neon lightings, the way that they show off each character, it actually foreshadows everyone's death, but you wouldn't realize it unless you go back and watch the opening very carefully. It kind of
I guess it does show the characters in order of death.
I don't know if it
Waller.
showed them in order of death. I just know it shows their deaths. Like when
Well,
at the up until the very end, like right before like the ending, when each character is kind of having this like they're standing in the middle of the screen facing left, and to the right is like this blood splotch, which you don't think is a blood splotch. It just looks like a spray of ink. Each character is shown, like Swindler is shown to be like kneeling before a cross building thing.
Brawler Cutthroat. Then it shows Doctor Hoodlum, Hacker, Swindler, Courier. Oh my god, it does show the characters in order of their deaths.
I didn't catch that. That's amazing.
I actually don't like openings or shows that do that.
It doesn't.
'Cause
You have no way of knowing unless you watch it with context.
after like 2 or 3 characters die, you might catch on to that though.
Well, that's the
Dragon Ball,
thing.
Dragon Ball Super ending Haruka did the same thing, and it actually made me upset because it showed the characters in order of how they got knocked out of the tournament.
Well, A, it's really fast paced. B, they changed the opening twice, if not 3 times, so they could have changed that up to the very end.
I remember it showing them all in order, in the same order each time.
You just realized it, that it's real there. How can you possibly remember doing it every single time?
Because I remember watching the opening when you said Swindler cut her hair, which was true, but it still showed them in the same order that episode 1 did.
That was another thing I really enjoyed about the opening. That, when Swindler had her like character shift, like the opening reflected it, and her in the opening was with short hair, with cut hair, and I'm like, yeah, that's really awesome.
Ooh, that actually makes me want to bring something up about Kai Kai Kitan, if that's okay.
Uh, do you need to hop off it now, or can we finish about the Akudama Drive opening?
I would like to before I lose my thought.
Absolutely fair. Go right ahead.
Kai Kai Kitan, I really like the visuals of that opening because it changes it up. It changes up two major things and does one thing that I really like.
Oh,
One,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it after the episode where Gojo reveals his pretty eyes, the openings following that, it shows Gojo lifting up the eye patch instead of just cutting away from it. And it also shows whenever we're introduced to a new, character of the main ensemble, it shows them joining Itadori and Junpei for that picnic at the end. And speaking of Junpei and the picnic, I love how it foreshadows, like, yeah, no, Junpei's going to be part of the main ensemble. Yeah, no, believe us, we're going to rip away everything you know and love about Junpei.
I mean, that's you assuming that Junpei's dead.
It, that final conversation with Nanami and Itadori wouldn't have happened if he wasn't.
We
The
will
entire context of it
see.
wouldn't make sense if Junpei was alive.
We will see.
I mean, I
We'll
rewatched through
see.
that. I rewatched through that scene. It was a general conversation about death. It was not aimed in one direction or another.
I reserve the right to say I told you so.
I mean, listen, I've been talking about it since the episode, that like how fucking crazy and like incredible, like what a fucking amazing twist and play by the anime to, like, what a great fucking subversion of expectations by the anime if they kill off Junpei. But like, we'll see what happens, man. But I agree with you. The way that the opening kind of like introduces, as the characters become fully introduced, it changes the picnic scene to actually kind of, because Junpei was foreshadowed from the very beginning. That picnic scene is very specific because it lingers right before the title drop. It lingers for a few seconds longer, kind of with a soft zoom in, which naturally brings our attention into it. Um, but yeah, no, it's. I really liked. I didn't even catch it until you brought it up that once Nanami and the second years were introduced, they are now part of the picnic, and there's like it's a golden hour, and Junpei's still there, and then there's this really dark glitch right before it cuts to the title card. I thought the ending was really good. Unfortunately, though, I just don't feel strongly about the ending doing much with itself. Like I don't think a lot happens in the ending. The song is good, the visuals are really nicely made, and they kind of do foreshadow everyone's power, and they don't spoil anything, but it doesn't really do anything, you know?
I mean, that's why I have it as my runner-up. It's generic shonen opening, but that subversion of expectation when they make you think Junpei's going to be a huge part of the ensemble, but they take that away from you, slap you on the nose with a newspaper, and say bad boy. The other reason why I don't think Junpei's dead because the whole fucking that part in the opening where they showed because there's that little glitch. Like after they show the zoom in with Junpei, then you see Itadori looking at Sukana in the throne of mouth.
Yes, the Throne of Mouth.
Yes.
I don't know. Gilly, any. Well, right, you have a different way of dealing with openings. I mean, any thoughts you could add on the Jujutsu or Akudama opening before I go back to the Akudama opening?
Uh, mm, Neither of those openings particularly did a lot for me. The Jujutsu one I still listen to every now and then. The Akudama one, I wasn't a huge fan of the song, and the the opening, the actual visuals was just way too much for me.
Hmm.
Uh, Honestly, I'm leaning towards the only opening we haven't talked about yet, and we'll get to that after Akudama.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you might, yeah. The visuals aren't for you, literally, because headache. Um, yeah. I mean, just to finish my point and argument for Akudama Drive, I just think it does a really great job of highlighting little details and notes and tidbits about the characters, and I personally think it's visually stunning. Its use of like this neon color and like low light, like this low light neon coloring neon illumination in like low light rooms for its characters, and then switching it to like darkness and black light, where it like kind of uses negative space and black color to highlight everything else that is colored, and like each character having like a specific detail highlighted in like the very bright fluorescent black light. It's really cool. The executioners get it too. The all the Akudamas get it. Any color. Hey, hello, welcome. Any color you might see in a character, like Swindler's hair, is highlighted in the quote unquote black light by using the how do I put this? By using the negative space, the black color, to kind of like just let it pop. So everyone's eyes, especially Cutthroat's eyes, go really like glow bright. I think Doctor has like blood splotches, or like her eyeliner is like fluorescent. Swindler's hair is like fluorescent. The pink highlights. I think Hoodlum's pompadour has like little like highlight bits. I don't know. It's just really damn you trucks. It's just really pretty. It's gorgeous to look at. It's a lot. It's just bombastic. It almost like sends you down to like a light speed tunnel. The way it kind of uses all this like colors, like these like super 80s like streaks of color as it like zooms by. It's hard to explain. I'm not very good at it, but I love it, and I understand if both of you don't feel strongly about it. I just wanted to give it its due because it just represents each character very well, only driving them further forward into like the importance that they play in this show. And it just highlights little details about them and their backstory and their eventual deaths. And I like the robots doing the wave in the back when the song goes, oh yo, oh yo.
Let's let's talk about Ikebukuro, because I'm not strong on Akudama. I thought it repeats visuals. The visuals did
It
nothing for
doesn't
me.
repeat visuals, Meep. We've been over
Yes, it
this.
does. It uses the same stills of each of the characters 3
No, it
times.
doesn't. I went back and watched it twice, and I told you it doesn't.
Song did nothing for me. Honestly, the only two I feel strongly on this list are Dying Wish and Kai Kai Kitan, but let's talk about Needle Knot, because I do like the song for Needle Knot.
The song is a banger.
Song is a banger. I think the visuals are a mess. It's a mess of colors throwing things at you, and I think it's a bit insulting to the show that it handles some things better in the opening than it does the show. Just coughs coughs at the fight between King and Koichi.
I think that does suck. That the fight that it was building up so much. I talked about it in my disappointment. The fight that was built up is better in the opening than in the actual episode, but otherwise the opening is a fucking banger. And this is a point of contention we had since the beginning of Ikebukuro Westgate Park. You said you didn't like the opening, you didn't like the song much, you didn't like the and you hated the visuals. The song grew on you, but it sounds like the visuals didn't really. But even back then, I told you like, no, it's not messy. It's just really loud, and I think it's the point to like kind of express how chaotic and mixed cultured and complicated Ikebukuro is, and how loud Ikebukuro is.
The
Because
visuals feel like it's... Oh, sorry.
if you go back to watch the opening now and you look at what's happening in the opening, it highlights everything that happens throughout the episodes. You see the little girl, the damn it, I forgot her name. Noah? No, from the first episode, just standing there with the little kid with the airplane that fell off the fucking balcony that almost died in the opening of the episode. You see them standing while like the G boys run over them. You see the VTuber guy falling downstairs at the end and also filming in the background.
He's a YouTuber, Dalaron, not a VTuber.
Did I say VTuber again? God
You said
damn it!
VTuber again.
Ah! They've infected my tongue.
Look, I don't even try. I've been correcting him since the first time we talked about that episode, and he hasn't stopped.
He really has not.
You've been doing that since we first talked about it, and I keep correcting you, and you keep saying it anyways.
I'm sorry, I've fallen down the VTuber hole. What can I say?
Listen,
I think Dalaran just wants to be a VTuber.
I would very much enjoy to be a
Probably.
VTuber. Maybe then people will pay attention to me.
just don't sign on to HoloLive.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
Hush.
I had a lot of issues with Ikebukuro's like opening, not for the song, but for just how it looked. But honestly, by the last episode, I actually was a lot more intent and interested in watching through it and listening to it. And I've just it became my it honestly it became my favorite opening.
Hmm.
You can't see me, but I am nodding.
So I'm assuming you two want it for number one.
To me, for me, it's a tie between Ikabukuro's Westgate Park's opening and Yukoku no Moriarty's opening. I know that Akudama Drive is not going to get the win. I secede to that being reality. But Ikebukuro does a lot visually. It represents a lot of the things they talk about, and again, it kind of like foreshadows a lot of stuff and kind of includes all the characters in non-spoilery ways. And the sucks. The song's a bop. However, as far as just openings that combine song and the show's motifs and themes, ah man, you'd be hard pressed to find better than Yukoku no Moriarty's.
I'll, I'll tell you what. I'm okay with doing Yukoku no Moriarty for the winner and Needle Knot for runner up because I do like the song of Needle Knot. And I know Jujutsu isn't gonna win either, so I'm not gonna try and fight for that one too hard.
Gilly,
Hmm.
what's your vote?
I mean, I go for Ikebukuro's opening for the winner, and then I was going for Jujutsu Kaisen's for runner up. I'm really not a big fan of Koku no Moriarty's.
I love it, man. The lyrics are incredible. They're operatic. It's one of the JoJo bands. One of the bands that did opening for JoJo.
I know you two are passionate about Needle Knot, so then how about How about we swap it up then? Needle Knot for number one, and then Dying Wish for runner up.
Do these terms appease you, Gilly?
I'm trying to appease both of you.
I know. I meant Gilly.
I don't want it to seem like I'm dragging my feet. I wouldn't
You're
be
not. If
sick.
anything, you're pushing us along.
Positioning wasn't as much the issue for me. It's hard. It's really hard for me to get behind Yukoko no Moriarty's.
Hmm.
I think it's a good vote because it at least includes one of everyone's favorite, and me and Meep are pretty passionate about the about. I mean, if you want to continue discussing, I'm all for it. It's just me and
Yeah.
Meep both really like Dying Wish.
The reason I put it over Jujutsu is just that visually it does something new, and I actually really like the song.
Yeah, if it was Ikebukuro versus Jujutsu, that might have been like a tougher argument. But since it's Moriarty versus Jujutsu, Moriarty just does so much to set up the show and the world than Jujutsu's opening is. Though Jujutsu opening is honestly it's really fucking good too. Just the animation quality and the angles that they use for it is like fantastic. But
Actually,
I'll, can, I mean, I'll concede it to move forward. I just don't agree.
oh no.
hold on a
It's
moment.
this isn't. I sadly cannot even make this like a no halfway like I can get behind that kind of thing. It's more just there's no way for me to argue in any other point here, and I can't. But there's no I can't just say I'm happy with this.
I actually do want to bring up a point here that actually it's making me reconsider. I never skipped Jujutsu's opening once. And about after episode 4, I did skip Yukoku no Moriarty. How about you, Dal?
I mean, I like Gilly. I do things very differently. When I'm watching the show, I every few minutes helps me plan my day out. So I normally just skip openings in general and then listen to them in my free time as my desire comes up, or before making nominations, like I do with the show.
Because in total, I ended up listening to Jujutsu's opening more. I never skipped it once. You know, I think I may have just wanted Dying Wish because it did something different, but at the end of the day, Jujutsu's is still really fucking good.
I like the animation in Jujutsu's. The song is all right. The visuals are all right.
I I actually have to put Kai Kai Kitana as my runner up the more I think about it. Because I love Dying Wish, but at the same time, no opening got me more pumped up for the show than Jujutsu's. That's why I never skipped it.
Yeah, and Ikobukuro's gets me pumped up for the show as well. So I mean, my vote is with that one. If you guys want to put Dai Dai Kitan on second place, that's fine. It's just Dying Wish is an incredible opening for original content and everything. The only if we are is that what we're doing? Are we replacing the runner up for Dai Dai Kitan?
I I'd like to actually, because the more I think about it, the more I think Kai Kai Kitan to me is the better opening.
Gilly, are you is that also where you're leaning?
It is. I don't want it just going this way because we're trying to make it move forward, but it is where I was leaning in the first place. Yeah.
I
I mean,
I actually I I promise that's not it. It's just the more it was talked about, the more I actually started thinking like, I actually never skipped Kai Kai Kitan once, and ultimately I was wanting Dying Wish more because it did something different, but I don't think that's fair to myself to grade it on that scale.
yeah, I mean, like again, all the things nominated are fantastic options. And if that's where your two hearts lie, then I'm fine with accepting Dai Dai Katan as the second opening. I personally, um, like I personally love the Moriarty opening. I think it's absolutely incredible. Like it's a really tough tie because Jujutsu Kaisen's opening is the weakest in my opinion as is in its entirety, but it does enough things interesting that I won't, like I said before, I won't filibust on it. I think Akudama Drive does similarly, but even more successful. What Jujutsu Kaisen's opening does, but that's not really your cup of tea. I think I will secede because at the end, Yukoku no Moriarty's opening, ironically, much like Ikabukuro's opening, sets up the show to be more dramatic and dynamic than the show actually is, which I think is a slight against it. Like you guys said, the gun to the head foreshadowing, like faking one's death, the showdown between Sherlock and Moriarty with like the way they turn the corner and each point the gun at each other in perfect sync. All that was fantastic. I mean, I don't know, man. The lyrics of the song is really what gets to me. It's so beautiful and it matches the visual and the show perfectly because it was made for the show. But
I get you. I love it too, but at the same time, the more I think about it, the more I realize that I would place Kaikai Kitan over it.
yeah, well, yeah.
Every time I hear Coco no Moriarty's opening, I feel like I'm about to. I feel like I'm in Beast's Castle in Kingdom Hearts 2 about to fight Zeldan.
Yeah, well, see, that sounds like trauma.
It's fight was traumatic, but that's not the point. The operatic doesn't usually draw me in very well.
Hmm.
And
I just think
it's not an issue and it's not an issue with opera either because I have opera saved. It's just I'm very particular with that type of music.
no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I just think the
Well,
show is really done. Mm. Yeah,
no, you continue. You continue.
I just think the opening, as far as songs themselves that are perfect for the show. No, I mean, I guess it's not really fair because it was specifically written to it. I think I love it. I think it's beautiful, but I can accept that Katana as a runner up if Ikebukuro gets the win because I also think Ikebukuro's opening is really good. I think it's really fun, but I actually feel less strongly about it after the end of the season because the whole car chase scene never happened and the fight scene was better in the opening. But
Well, I don't think the car chase scene happens in episode 1.
yeah, but it's not with Makoto and scumbag Skinny Boy and King behind them. It's just the junkies.
Hmm. It Delaron, if that's how you feel with something winning runner up that you don't think should, how do you think I feel? I actually don't like the Ikebukuro opening.
I think we all just need to agree to. I think we all just need to accept that we need to agree on things in this category, and I don't think anyone is getting their preferred openings in the preferred slots. But these are all really good openings, and Ikubukuro's song is still a fucking banger, and the visuals, while loud and in your face, there's a lot to enjoy there. And the Jujutsu Kaisen opening is animationally very well done. It's very smooth, and the angles, the points of perspective that they use to kind of build a world out in every character's powers is really good.
Hmm. Well, congratulations to Fall 2020's Best Opening. Runner up Kaikai Kitan, Jujutsu Kaisen, uh, and Needle Knot from Ikebukuro Westgate Park as the winner. And as our next category, this one I think is going to be a bit easier because all of us had a sort of little consensus. Best ending. We have nominated Lost in Paradise from Jujutsu Kaisen, Anone from Kuma 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 Bear, Hyro no Saga from Majino Tabi Tabi, and Stick Out from King Raid.
I am just going to cast my vote for my number one right away. I know I mocked you before, but I actually have very strong feelings about this. Jujutsu Kaisen's closing is incredible. It sparked a whole world of memes, and it also sparked a bunch of people who felt comfortable making animations with a very much more simplistic art style. The song is incredible, the song is so good, and it perfectly displays the personalities of our main four so well.
I think we're all in consensus of Lost in Paradise winning because I know Gilly, you were going to be fighting for that one.
Oh yeah. This is a lot less. I feel like this is a lot less decisive. I think runner-up might be a little more, but Lost in Paradise. I love how it sounds. It's very different than whenever I get to an anime's opening. There's all the memes about anime openings, about the like you'll see all these memes about anime openings, and you'll see like the first image is all like super peppy and excited, and then the second image to represent anime closings is just some edited. I feel like I've seen this weird edited image of Pikachu wearing like a trench coat looking into the sunset.
The one I'm thinking of is the one where it's like the cat looking out the window while it's raining.
But it's just like that is what I'm so accustomed to with closings, and Jujutsu Kaisen does something very different for the type of show it is. Like I've seen happy closings, but usually it's usually for a specific type of show, not this type of show, and I love it. It's so good. It looks so good. It sounds so good. It is also on my playlist of anime music that I listen to sometimes when I'm driving.
It is
I mean, I
phenomenal.
sometimes put it on repeat for like 30 minutes while I'm like washing dishes and cleaning stuff because it's just such a feel good opening.
Like I really like Lost in Paradise. It is a phenomenal closing song. And
Also, the song
I'm very I'm very scared because it's probably going to get changed, and I don't think anything will ever stack up to it.
I don't think any of us wants to let. I don't think any of us want it to change. Also, the song changes beats three times throughout it before, or like two times throughout it before coming back to its original beat at the very end in like a much more uppy chorus way. And fuck, it's so good.
Yeah. Next, I think it's only poetic that stick out. The only good thing about King's Raid gets its due.
No,
I vote stick out.
no,
I vote stick out
absolutely
for runner up.
not. The stick out was the weakest link for me.
It was the next strongest one for me. Actual,
You're
I
roboting a little bit, but
I said it was the next strongest one for me because I absolutely hate Anone, and Majin no Tabi Tabis is just okay for me.
Majo no Tabi Tabis is beautiful. Let's talk about that ending for a bit. Gil, you said you
Uh,
don't.
you'll be the one talking. I have like nothing to say about that one.
It's
I
really fucking pretty.
my own my main issue with Tabi's ending, and this is going to be sad because I just said about how I decide how openings and closings work, how I what my grading scale is. The only thing I liked about it was the visuals, which is very sad seeing as my grading scale goes off of the song.
Yeah, this is one of those visual first openings for
Like
me. The song
it
is
wasn't
very.
I can't even say the song is bad. It's very it feels like things I've heard before. It just feels very bland.
I enjoyed its visuals. Its
Like
songs were okay.
but the ending did look nice.
Yeah, it looked nice. Its song was okay at best. I would put Stick Out over it. I'm not gonna lie.
Nah, the opening is simplistically gorgeous. It is incredibly nice. It's like it. Okay, so I know we're talking about the endings right now, but since we're talking about Tabi Tabi, there is an honorable mention I want to give to the openings, which was Tabi Tabi's Majra no Tabi Tabi's opening, because the it's exact like the opening is what I wanted from the show, right? It showed these like it showed different places, like mechanical wonders of like beautifully like polished wood and brass and metal, and it showed Elena traveling and smiling and people smiling around her. It showed the ensemble a little bit. It's just it fills you with wonder about different places and different things and different people, and that's what I wanted the show to be. The song is pleasant too, but it's mainly the visuals that are just sometimes it's even too fast. Like when you're on a trip, you will miss things if you don't pay attention. And I thought the opening served really well, and like it's what I wanted the show to be. The ending gives me the feelings of what I wanted the show to leave me with. After each episode, the book closes, and you just reflect on what you saw and what you experienced and where you went with the show. The song is really pleasant. It gives me it reminds me of like 2000 like early 2000 openings, early 2000 endings. There's this like impassioned female voice singing. There's this very pleasant like piano or some kind of like bell sound in the like maybe even a triangle in a xylophone, with like some very like mellow, but then at the very end it just builds an emotion. But it's not just like happy and energetic music. It's there's a little bit of sorrow to it, and I think the way they chose to make the opening look, where it's just these silhouettes of objects of Elena, of this like very soft, prismatic, almost like sunset color scheme. It's just fucking pretty, man.
Each time we watched King's Raid, the ending was the only thing I enjoyed. And I actually wouldn't skip the ending because I actually enjoyed it. And it had the most interesting thing of the show, the Dark Elves in it.
Who
Tabi Tabi's opening
cares?
visually, it looked pretty. Song didn't do anything for me. I absolutely hate Anone. Like Kuma 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 Bear's ending, absolutely hate it.
Well, you're fucking wrong. Let's talk about Kuma Kuma Bear's opening, ending. Take it away, Gilly.
Let me pull up a lyrics real quick. I'll sing you a didn't know. It is. I love it so much. I really
Yeah.
do. The closing theme for Kuma Bear is just every time I start to hear it, every time I finish an episode and I'm about to I'm about to like close out and go to the next show, and it starts to play, and then I just stop and wait. I love it so much. It is just, and like it's very simple visuals. It's nothing like crazy. It's basically just, you know, fancy done up credits, and I'm fine with that because it just sounds so good. It's so nice.
It is a perfect ending to a fluffy, cute show. It is simple, it is adorable, it follows with the energy of the show, and love, I love openings or closings that have the main characters or not, sing along to it. Elena in the opening, when she's sitting on somewhere like kicking her feet and like waving her wand and singing to the lyrics of the song, gives me chills and gives me makes my eyes tear up a little bit because it has such a strong effect on me. And seeing Yuna in Kuma 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 Bear's ending just sing along to the lyrics as she like shucks and jives a little bit side to side, and the hoodie, her like bear suit, like her bear onesie kind of like flops a little bit on her head while she like excitedly goes ba da ba 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 da ba da da. Like it's so cute and it's so like it's so nice. It feels so good. Also, the song is catchy, but like in a nice way. Not like it's not like it's poppy, but it's not like in a bad way. Like I'm upset that's in my head. Just like every once in a while, I'll go ba da da ba da da ba da da ba bum ba da ba na ba da da na na, and then I'll just continue my day.
I've tried using a power drill to drill it out of my brain.
He's
I
so
love it.
salty.
I
Demon
love it
Zone.
so much. This evokes happy memories from Kingdom Hearts when I was playing the Winnie the Pooh level.
Yoon Bear,
Well,
Yuna the Pooh Bear.
I have a feeling we know what the runner-up is then. Well, I kept it off the list for as long as I could.
Look, I was going to fight hard for Kuma Bear's ending.
Listen,
I don't think it's the
I
best
can't
ending.
win against you two.
I don't think it's the
You know,
best ending.
I can't put it as number one because I still think Jujutsu Kaisen's is the absolute best.
Yeah.
But it is. But I have to. It's too good not to like have it as runner up for me.
That being said, we have barely
I
talked
just can't
about.
win against Sorry.
No, go ahead, me.
I was just can't, and I just can't win against you two with this fucking show. So,
Look, you're gonna have to sit through season 2 when that happens.
I hope it gets canceled.
You know it
I
won't. It has good ratings.
I want season 2 of Moriarty. I don't need season 2 of Kuma Bear.
Well, he's gonna like it, so you know what?
Not if it comes out in spring and he has to choose between Moriarty and Kuma.
It's not gonna come out in spring. We all know it isn't. Anime usually wait a year before they get their next season out. Yukoku no Moriarty being an exception.
We'll see.
Moriarty is set up as a two-part. It's supposed to be a two-parter. It's technically a second season, but it's just this. It's more just part 2. Whereas Kuma Bear is going to be a second season that they hadn't initially planned on. So yeah, it'll probably be a bit.
I guess we'll see. But you've mentioned it before, and we've barely talked about King's Raid and Getsu Warhide Zurst, which is understandable. They died off rather early in our show, but the King's Raid closing, let's give credit where credit is due. It is
Zurst had nothing.
Zurst had a black screen with credits.
There you go. There you go, Dalaran.
I didn't mean for the ending or opening, and gods did I not mean it for the opening. No offense, guys, but like there's there's like not shitting on things, and then there's calling people out for like a job not well done. The opening and ending to Zurst is bad, but that's not what this award is about.
Something can't be well done. It didn't happen. It has no opening.
The closing of King's Raid, I actually did really like it. It's a good song. It's got uh it's kind of funny when you think about it, when you really look into it, that so King's Raid follows technically two different storylines. You have Castle's crew and the Dark Elves, and the opening is Castle's crew and the closing is the Dark Elves. I always appreciated that little touch of detail, and I liked how the closing looked and I liked how it sounded. It wasn't bad to me. It's just a lot of flames, a lot of heavy emotion towards the our Dark Elves.
Yeah.
Just very strong.
If I close my eyes, I can remember the visuals of the King's Raid opening. Some of them, the two dark elves crying in the fire, angry and crying in the fire. Remember some of the other stills of Castle and other people, but like, oh, maybe not. I don't remember. The thing is, though, this one left. Unfortunately, I don't have much to contribute here because it left no near to no impression. I don't remember the song. The visuals, I do remember like us joking, half jokingly saying like this is the best part of King's Raid because it was, but
I
like
wasn't joking.
like I said, half joking, but it was like it like honestly like it looked better than the rest of the show, and it showed off far more interesting characters than our castle gang. But that does not earn it a spot in my opinion.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the fourth ending to Soul Eater, the one where you see Ashura and like Ashura on top of the city, and the city is just falling apart. It's just like da 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 da. That one. It reminds me of that ending.
Yo, Meep went in.
Oh yeah, no, that fucking Soul Eater ending is one of my favorite endings in anime. Period. Say what you want about the later half of Soul Eater. I fucking hate it too, but that ending is a bop.
Never seen it.
Read the manga is all I can say.
But yeah, Gilly, I'm not to shit on the show that you've enjoyed. It's just it eroded a lot of good faith, and I don't want to knock on the ending because if you enjoy it, like honestly, like I also did enjoy it. It's just when Meep was just like, as the best thing about the show, we should give the show something. Let's give this a nomination. I was like, absolutely the fuck not.
I thought it was better than the other two things on this list.
You just don't like Kuma Bear.
Look,
I hate that ending.
I like King's Raid's ending, and honestly, I wish I wish we could have put the actual second openings and endings because they were actually very very good in my opinion.
I think I watched the second opening, right? And I said like, oh yo, this is actually pretty fucking hot.
Yeah, and the second ending I think is really good too. Like they've reached their halfway point, so they've done a new opening and ending, and I think they're significantly better than their original ones, but I still like the original ending. The original opening did very little for me.
It was a little generic, but it also kind of brought me back to early 2000s kind of stuff, which it was in its favor. I think one thing we do need to mention about our openings is that none of them nominated, or for the most part, in actually all of the shows we watched, none of they foreshadow and they kind of like establish the world, but none of them really spoils the show, which is something I hate that anime has started doing recently.
Didn't you just say Akudama Drive shows the deaths of the characters?
Goddamn, there's a difference between foreshadowing me and just straight up showing you the death of the characters.
You said it shows them die in the opening.
Just rewatch the end. Just rewatch the opening because it seems like you don't recall a couple of parts. That's what I would recommend you do. Sorry, I'm getting tired and snippy. I don't mean to come off because I felt like that came off aggressive and that wasn't my point. I apologize.
I'm just saying what you said when we were talking about the openings.
Yeah, it basically
I didn't get to bring it up when we were talking about
each character you kind of see, like you see Swindler, like Swindler's thing is like the cross where she will die. Doctor is kind of like laying on her back surrounded by like black smudges. It doesn't show us. I don't think it shows us footprint. It's like it's not even a second long. It's like half a second, if that. I think Hoodlum has like a knife. I don't remember all of them because I didn't pay attention to all of them. I think it shows Brawler like in the rain or something like that. And yes, if you're super anal and you watch the opening and take it apart and then you get upset that it spoils something that wasn't really meant to be intentionally noticed, that's on you, homie G. But this is about the
also,
endings. Hmm?
I was just gonna say I'm gonna 100% the Jujutsu Kaisen opening does kind of spoil something. Mahito. Remember at the start of the season when I said Mahito might be a good guy?
No. I actually did not like the Jujutsu opening for that exact reason, because it kind of spoiled Mahito. Like, we knew he was going to be a villain. Damn it. I should have dug my heels in.
I don't mind it because a lot of openings do that, especially shonen. Like, fucking look at My Hero Academia.
Yeah, that's not fucking good.
I'm gonna be honest with you on this one, Sheaf. Because of how Jujutsu Kaisen was doing its characters and sort of designing and setting them up, I was iffy on Mahito until he was verified to be a villain. I could not tell either way
Cool.
because the way this show is set up, there's a lot of pro tags that look like they could also be villains.
And I won't lie. I thought the person who had the gun and Tato were gonna be villains, where they're antagonists, but they're not villains, quote unquote.
They're just a rival school. Yeah, I thought they might have been bad guys too.
Yeah,
I think it was left. I think the opening was. It kind of says things, but it left ambiguous. So it was sort of left up to you'll figure it out when you get there.
I just like the idea that should probably switch shift. That's probably switch panels. I just love the idea that it's like, yeah, the openings and closing visuals could leave a lot of people, ambiguous about antagonists or protagonists. Looking at you, Panda.
We were on Panda forever until he showed up, and I still want more.
Fuck, I should have
I
put him
want
as my
more
biggest
too.
disappointment.
I want to see more fingies.
Fingies. But
Kentucky
yeah,
Fried Fingies.
just to move
Ew, no,
on, just
give me
one
more
last
Panda.
thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, all I said was give me more Panda. Go on.
More Panda, please. I am looking forward to the tournament arc because I do want to. The show has succeeded in starving me for its side characters. But just to finish up this award ceremony, I think we have our decisions made. But just to go back to Tabi Tabi's The Journey of Elena's ending one more time. If it doesn't win, I understand. I've pretty much have come to terms that I'm going to be a little salty right now, but I've pretty much come to terms that I am not going to. The things that I feel the most passionate about are not going to be the ones that win the awards this season. Um, but
That goes for all of us, though. Like,
yeah, it's this season's really hard, and there's nothing on this list that I really would take off of it. Um, Tabi Tabi's ending does simplicity well. It's elegant, and it's so pretty. And honestly, I could hear that song be the closing of like Full Metal Alchemist or Inuyasha. Like it just hits this emotional and audio nerve for me that just resonates in my anime soul and like kind of takes me back to the feelings of being like 14 and 16 and like watching Adult Swim at night for the anime and things like that. And I cannot overstate about how just simply pretty it is. The colors used, the way they. I mean, again, the ending, the ending looks really good and kind of makes the characters look even better than they really are. It's exactly what I wanted to feel from the show, and the opening gave me exactly what I wanted to see from the show, but the show was neither of those things. So unfortunately, it stays dead.
well, congratulations to Fall 2020 Best Endings. Lost in Paradise from Jujutsu Kaisen as our winner, and our runner-up, Enone from Kuma Bear.